Greetings and salutations, guys. Welcome back to the ALEuminati. We've covered a fair few topics in the last few weeks now. We're getting a bit of a roll.
Yeah, number 3.
So,
number
6, I think this is.
I can't even remember.
We're just on a roll. We're smashing out now. But you decide to come in with one of the granddaddies of conspiracy theories.
I said before in one of the previous ones, go big or go home. So we were probably looking to get a bit of a run going and then start adding some of the big ones towards the end. But I just thought, oh, fuck it. So
that's kind of big. We're going to get people in.
Yeah. So I thought this week one of my favourites, probably the original one that I really got my teeth sunk into, is the moon landings. Did we fake the moon landings? Or did America specifically?
Did America specifically fake the moon? Basically, did man walk on the moon? And this is an interesting one for me because it's one of them that you get taught in school and you believe it, but this has become a bigger and bigger theory the more we've gone. The technical knowledge and scientific knowledge of the general public's increased, so people start questioning it. The availability of knowledge at our fingertips, like people go, well, you can't get through the Van Halen bell, and you go, oh right, okay, that's the thing, you can't get through it. Now you can go, what the fuck is that? And Google it, and you can put your phone out your pocket and Google it. So I think the accessibility knowledge made people question more, whereas in the 60s, well 69 when it happened was just like, that's the thing that happened because our government wouldn't lie to us.
Agreed, and this is one of the this is one of those conspiracies where when I first heard this, I think it was on a Fox special. It was aired as a Fox special in America. I saw it on VHS in the UK, and I watched a video of this, and it's just like, well, we definitely didn't go to the moon, and here's all this evidence, and I was like, fuck me, we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah.
We did not go. Look at all this, like everything they were bringing forward about. I'm sure we'll get into. I'm sure at some point about stars and flags and dust and craters and all sorts. And I was just like,
and you started going, it all makes fucking sense. How could I even believe we went?
And I was just there. I was like, wow, this is the bollocks, right? So I was properly reeled in for a long time, and then over the years, I flip-flopped on little things over and over again. And then I would say, last few years, I've been absolutely certain on my mindset. It won't be. I don't think it can be changed now unless something drastic happens. But I've certainly firmed up my mind about what I think happened. And my investigation, to be honest, has just
confirmed that.
It's just solidified my thought process on this, which we'll get to at the end. But this is definitely one where if anybody looks at both sides of it, you have to investigate it properly.
Yeah.
Because I got reeled in. I class myself as a relatively intelligent guy, logical kind of guy, but I got reeled in very, very early on regarding here's one side of the story because I couldn't explain it away.
Well, that's the thing. But when I think I was similar to you, that I don't remember the Fox story. I think I saw a documentary on TV, and it just blew my mind. It was like, fuck, this is obvious. This is.
It was,
but I couldn't go fact check that information at that time.
Correct.
I'd seen it on TV, and even went and told my mates, I saw this thing last night, blah, blah, blah. And if I came here and I saw this amazing thing about moon landings, you need to watch it. Oh, what's it called? Moon landing, fact or fiction. Right, I'll look. We're on Netflix. Right, I'll look for that. Back when I saw this in the 90s, it was on ITV at 10 o'clock at night.
See it once.
You see it once and it's gone. I can tell you what we're called, but you've no way of seeing it or watching it again unless it came back on TV like 2 years later or something. Now we can go watch. I'll watch that program straight away. I'll go see that, and then you see what's in the program, and you can fact check it on your phone while you're going and see. So I think now we're more informed, whereas back then it was we landed on the moon. That's a fact, right? I've been told this knowledge, therefore we landed on the moon. I mean, we did land on the moon. I've been given this knowledge. No, actually, no, they're lying. We did land on the moon, but I've nowhere to verify it or check it. So this is where I flipped and flopped over the years. I get more information as I become more intelligent, more aware that we did, no, we didn't. Yeah, we did, no, we didn't. I think I'm sat on the fence right now. I'm almost one way. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to finish on this, but this is where you said like you don't think your mind can be changed. You think you're set.
I've not seen anything change my mind now.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that, but I'm looking forward to what you're going to present with your research today.
That'd be good.
Because that might change. If you might pull something out that I wasn't aware of that might change it. So I'm interested to see where this is going to go.
But if anyone presents to anybody, if someone presents to you sitting on Earth with our mindset of how Earth does, and someone says to you, "You're on the moon, we can't see any stars. The flag is waving in a zero gravity environment. Well, almost zero, it's 1/6, but it's waving. It should be able to wave. If you fast forward people moving two times, it just looks like they're running across the Earth. There's
a single source of light from the sun, but shadows are going in 12 different directions.
There's no impact craters.
Yeah.
There's no dust and crosshairs on photos. And someone goes, "They're fucking being blatant. Look at the obviousness of all these." And you're sat here.
It's blatant. It's in front of me.
And I'm sat here as an Earthling without any technical understanding of all of that. It's absolutely obvious and easy for someone to go, even with the critical mind going, "Well, isn't that some interesting shit?" And I've got absolutely no idea how I personally can explain that away, and I've got no access to anything to tell me how to either.
And the only people who can explain it away to you, which is NASA, are going, "We don't entertain conspiracy theories, they're a waste of time." Why wouldn't you? We're talking shit about you. Why wouldn't you set the record? You're the only people with the evidence that can shut this up, and you're not. That must mean you don't have the evidence to shut this up. It must mean we're onto something, and you don't want us to talk about it. So that kind of buys into that conspiracy paranoia. If that's the thing, yeah.
So all I'm saying is, I can understand where this conspiracy came from, why it exists, and why it exists today. I can completely understand why it exists.
Well, I can understand why, and I can understand where it came from, but I can also tell you exactly where it came from.
Please.
Right? Which is...
So it wasn't Armstrong coming out going...
No.
By the way...
Although there's that interesting Layers of Onion speech that he gave at the end of his life.
And also the first video when they came back to Earth, and they had the press conference for an hour. Well, I don't know if we're going to talk about it at some point, but they just looked like someone had said to him, "Oh, before you go on stage, your grandma's just died." Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
It didn't look like some guys have just come off the moon, like, woohoo, the greatest accomplishment of human history. It's
you've been walking around like a fucking rock star, like, the world loves me, you've been to the moon, you've been to the moon, no, do you know, you just got 2 thumbs and been to the moon? This guy!
You're walking around with your cock out, drinking fucking whiskey and 6 cigarettes and women and everything. You've been walking around like the biggest rock star in the face.
You'd be walking into a bar, wouldn't you, like, "Oh, Niel Armstrong," you're like, "Do you want to take some photos, get the local nuclear?" "Yeah, I'm not paying for my bit," and you won't buy for food ever again because Niel Armstrong shops at this store.
But he said, "We're like..."
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, that's a bizarre conference.
It was properly... the only thing I could think of before we get into it is, anyone who's ever taken copious amounts of drugs,
they have a massive come down.
They have the biggest come down, and I can only imagine that going to the moon was like the biggest drug anyone could take. And at the end of it, they're like, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again."
Do you know what? That's interesting because I wrote a document I wrote a constitution for a football club.
Right. Yes, I remember.
That got adopted and is now the national framework for professional football teams in the UK. The FA adopted that, and it was that moment of elation when the FA asked me if they could use it. I was like, "Fuck yes!" Like, it's amazing, it's fantastic, brilliant. And I think, like, I'm drinking and partying with my missus and my mates, and then the next day I hit fucking rock bottom depression, like fucking sank like a brick, and literally crying in tears. And I was like, that's it, that's done. It was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm 28 years old, and I've written the greatest thing I'm ever going to write. I've done the greatest thing I'm ever going to do.
But you didn't know that you had this channel.
Didn't know you had this channel come. But I said, like, when you go that come down from being at the moon, and like, I'm sat talking to journalists in a company, I can kind of see from that bit, because I was like, everyone around me is going, "You're amazing, you're fantastic, you've done this, you've made a positive impact on football," and I'm like, I'm never going to write anything that has such an impact on the world again. I'm done. I can live for the next 50 years and I'm never going to reach this elation again.
But it's only a momentary thing.
It's only a momentary thing, but I can understand when you put it in that aspect, in that framework, I can understand that. But
Anyway, we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, there goes the charger.
Charlie, I've got notes. Unlike Badger, he's environmentally friendly. I print off a tree.
Yeah, you've got a tree for every episode. So, the theory actually came about with some authority. Right? When we think like conspiracy theories, we always go tinfoil hat wearers, crazy guys in a mum's basement kind of thing, or and this came with some authority when it first came. So it was a very subtly titled book.
I can smell something coming.
Called "We Never Went to the Moon: America's $30 billion Swindle."
Pretty much on the nose.
It's about as subtle as a brick to the face, isn't it?
Take that.
But this was a self-published book in 1976 by Bill Casey, who's a former US Navy officer with a Bachelor of Arts in English. And despite having no knowledge of rockets or technical writing, Casey was hired as a senior technical writer in 1956 by Rocketdyne, the company that built the F-1 engines used on the Saturn V rocket. He served as head of the technical publications unit of the company's propulsion field laboratory until 1963. The many allegations in Casey's book effectively began discussions of the moon landings being faked. So this is where the whole moon landing hoax came from. It was his book that started in 1976. He has a sensationalist claim in it that says the chance of a successful crewed landing on the moon was calculated to be 0.0017%, and that despite close monitoring by the USSR, it would have been easy for NASA to fake the moon landings than to really go there.
Okay.
Now you've got a guy who wrote the technical writings for the Saturn V rocket, so he's involved in the space program in a sense. He's come out and said it was calculated to be 0.0017% chance of doing it. So it was easier to fake it than actually achieve it.
Well,
At 0.0017, you're essentially going, it's impossible.
at what point though did they say it was not 0.17%? So, in my daily life, I'm a project manager, and when I start projects, we always start with there's a business case brought forward. As an example, we want to go to the moon. That's your business case, and you go, what's the feasibility of this happening? So when you start the feasibility, it's like today, what does it look like? Before you bring anything to the table, it's like if we started right now, what would it look like? Well, 0.017%. We don't have a rocket, we don't have a factory, we don't have the personnel, we don't have the technology.
But this is the thing, is this like...
If that's day one, if that's a day one question...
Well, that's what I said, did this 0.0017 come out the day after Kennedy's speech, when Kennedy went, we're going to put a man on the moon in 10 years, and NASA went, get all the fucking head of department around the table now, like, if we're going to go to the moon tomorrow, what are our chances of succeeding? And going, we ain't got a fucking rocket, we haven't got
No, exactly.
we haven't got a crew, we haven't got a... like, impossible, really. Like,
exactly. But then as soon
we
as
could use what we know and throw it together, throw something good, but yeah, we would calculate 0.017.
But then in a month's time,
oh, we've got a rocket.
Well, we've got an idea. We can build a rocket. We've got an idea where we know the people who can do it. We've got an idea of training facilities. We've got an idea of diet. We've got an idea of suits. And
I don't think a month's time. I don't think you need the rocket. I think a month's time is like, we're going to go up on a rocket. That's how we're going to get them up there, and we're going to come like a parachute landing into the ocean. Is how we're going to get them back. Right, that goes to 15% chance of success, because we're not going to get them there and get them back. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly.
And then you go, like, this rocket, we're going to go on a rocket, right, a month after that, you've got the plans for the Saturn V.
I mean,
right, well, that just put our chances to 30%. And
if he said to, well, firstly, I don't even know where that 0.017% came from. Who said it and where it came from? No timeline to it at all.
The book claims that the chance of a successful crewed landing on the moon was calculated to be 0.0017%.
Okay.
It doesn't say who made the claim.
Or when.
I think it's just, it's a notable number that sticks in the head, and is a claim that, like, boom, this is it, this is the claim, this is the evidence.
But we don't know who said it, and it may not have even necessarily been an authority.
He might have said it, like where Saturday got it could be day one of the project meeting, and this was the day after Kennedy's speech gave this number, and then as resources and technology and funding were invented and became available, the percentage went up. We're putting this in a logical sense in stuff that we know of how I know how committees work, you're a project manager. He might have just fucking wrote this down because it looked good. We might be giving more credence to this number than it actually deserves.
If he'd have put in his book, you know, as Capcom Houston's going 5, 4, and then he goes, someone whispers, you know, we've only got 0.017% chance of doing this. And if someone said it then, I'd be like, well...
Fuck, yeah, this changes the story.
Yeah, exactly, but if he said it in the first breath, I could probably believe that. Because he had fuck all.
Yeah, I couldn't know.
He had nothing to this,
how are we getting to the moon? I've got a Chevy.
you know, and if he sticks a Mentos in a Coca-Cola bottle, you've got a great chance, but... to be fair, that might be factual. If that was the first conversation that ever happened.
Yeah, like, with the technology we've got today, what are our chances? 0.0017%. Right, so, how do we get to the moon? This, and this. Right, next meeting, how do we get back from the moon? This, and this. Right, so we have a process now, we have a plan. What do we need to build? Part one of the plan is how to get to the moon. What do we need to build to get there? Well, we need this, we need that, we need a rocket, we need an ignition system, we need a command centre, we need a ring of satellites across the telescopes and radio dishes across the world to monitor it so we can keep in touch with them. Right then, so we can get all these SETI telescopes and radio telescopes in Australia and stuff like that. Right, that's cool. That puts our chances up to 10%. And it's done. Breaking it down, going, what have we got today? Because if we know what we've got, then we know what we need. And as we start getting what we need, we've got a plan, we know what we need to get in. As we start getting that number starts going up, I can completely believe that.
I do.
100%.
Yeah. So it might be a true statement, but just not. It's not the statement.
It's a true statement, but it's not the full statement. I think. And with most things, context is king.
I agree.
So many moon landing conspiracies were being put forward, claiming either that the landings did not happen, and that NASA employees have lied, or that the landings did happen, but not in the way that is being told. Conspiracy theories have focused on perceived gaps or inconsistencies in the historical record of the missions. The foremost idea is that the whole crew landing was a hoax from start to end. Some claim the technology to send men to the moon was lacking, or that the Van Allen radiation belt, solar flares, solar wind, coronal mass ejections, and cosmic rays made such a trip impossible.
We'll probably come on to all of those.
We're going to cover all of these. The point I want to make there, and I kept in, is that I think when the moon landings happened, it was such a time of hope and an American spirit in America alone, and then around the world that was a spirit of human endeavour. And I think as we've gone on later on, like, no one in '69 knew, or the general public knew what Van Allen belts were, or what solar flares were.
No one had an idea.
So I think these come in, and so I'm going to get to this point I want to make later on down the line, is that this comes in the 80s and 90s. This is stuff that was bolted onto the theory. As we've become more scientifically knowledgeable, more technically knowledgeable, with information at our fingertips. Like, if I mention the Van Allen belts to you and you don't know what they are, you come up your phone out and Google it in seconds. So we have information at our fingertips now.
NASA knew about the Van Allen belts, so it's not a surprise to them.
NASA did, but it's not a surprise to them, they knew about it, but the public did. So the public just took what they were shown at face value, because media and governments don't lie in '69.
Never.
You know, today we don't. Give people on TV tell us about COVID, and we've got half of Facebook going, these guys are bollocks, they're shysters, they're shilling. You know, it's because fucking Karen from Liverpool knows more about these 100 fucking vaccine scientists, but never mind. You know.
Let's not do COVID.
Right, so we're not. No, we won't go to COVID, sorry. But right, so we've got how the hoax started. Of how it came about, like, we've got this book started.
So that book was the actual. When was the book released?
1976.
76. So 7 years after.
Yeah.
So a guy who says I worked on the Saturn project.
I worked on the Saturn V book. I wrote the technical plans for the Saturn V.
Okay.
And it can't do it. It can't get to the moon.
So I assume then that he released this book free of charge, and he went on to lots of public places free of charge and give all his money to charity.
I'm sure he did, because all it says here was it was self-published.
So let's put this into context immediately. A guy comes out, self-publishes a book about the biggest human achievement at that time, from 1969, and says, "We did not go to the moon. I worked for NASA, and this is my evidence."
No, it didn't work for. He never claimed to work for NASA.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I worked.
It worked for Rocketdyne. He was
Okay.
a technical writer for the Saturn V rocket.
So
he actually has no connection to NASA other
Okay.
than.
So, if the biggest achievement in human history at that point, and someone comes out and goes, "I can prove this is wrong. I can prove this is fake," are you telling me that this guy did not have an interest?
Speaking circuit, media appearances, and
So he also had an interest.
a massive. I mean, you write this book and then you go, you're the first person to come out against the narrative.
Is there a reason why it's self-published and they couldn't get a publisher to write it for him?
I don't think no one wanted to touch it.
There's probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because there's too much conjecture. So,
But you write this book, it causes a bit like we have today with viral videos on Facebook and tweets and stuff, and viral tweets and stuff like that. Is that you say something on Twitter that goes viral, suddenly you're on the news, you're on Sky News or BBC 24 or whatever, and that story's saying, so you come up with this story, it's going against the narrative. Suddenly you're on TV, you're on the news, you're on this discussion panel, you're doing speaking talks, your book sales are going through the fucking roof. You're making a fair tidy sum of it.
So he's not brought it out as a scientific piece of work, as a scientific artifact. He's not brought it out into any particular circles in that way. He's brought out as a self-published book that will make him specifically lots and
I'm
lots
sure
of
this is all just conjecture and personal opinion. I'm sure he did it for noble reasons, because the public deserve to know the truth. And but with a title, "We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion swindle." We'd call that clickbait today.
Yeah.
That's a clickbait title.
If you saw that in the bookshop after in 1976, you'd say,
Oh, it's only 7 years after. Well, we didn't. And then you see this guy's a technical writer for the Saturn V rocket. Well, he knows what he's talking about.
and then he produces evidence, or his opinion of evidence, which I think I said at the beginning of this video, even I struggled to in the early 90s go, I mean, I was only a young man, but it's been like, I don't know how to, I can't debunk it because I don't know enough.
But who are you to debunk it? You're a teenage kid in 90s, and this guy wrote the technical data for the Saturn V. Who the fuck are you to debunk it? He knows what he's talking about, you don't.
Exactly.
And then you get that conspiracy bias of, well, why did his book not get published? Because he didn't want the truth out. NASA and the government were blocking publishers from doing it, so he had to do it out of his own pocket and self-publish out of his own pocket. So, yeah, he's making money from speaking circuits and media appearances, but he's just gaining back his money that he had to spend to get the book out there.
Well, all I know is if the greatest achievement of humankind, and you just come out and spout a load of bollocks to the book, regardless of the content, the title itself will sell the book. So,
Yeah.
Clearly, he had
Just from the title alone,
skin in the game.
The skin in the game, you could tell what is by title. So we know where the hoax originated from then.
Okay. That was no one even spoke about this before. Then no one even.
No. This is the first time.
This
This is the first time we can I could pinpoint where someone had gone. This is the moon. He's the first person to come out. He's considered quite a whistleblower.
Okay.
Even though he didn't work directly for NASA, he worked on the Saturn V. I don't think he even saw a Saturn V rocket. I think he just got the blueprints for it and he wrote up the technical data kind of.
Okay.
But anyway, so if that's the hoax, and let's say that NASA did hoax the moon landings. Right? And that's a bit different to how we normally do because we asked the question at the end. The only reason I'm saying that now is, let's just say they did. Why would they? What are the reasons for hoaxing it? Because you can't just go, oh, NASA hoaxed it. Well, why would they hoax it? What are the reasons for it?
Well, I've thought about this before, and one of the best. Well, it isn't the only one, but I think the best reason for me would be we'd already seen Russia put Sputnik in space. Yuri Gagarin had already gone to space.
Laika, the dog that put the first woman in space.
Yeah, and America were very much. We're talking Cold War as well. The Americans were terrified that Russia were going to weaponize space. That they had this idea of that Russia were going to be able to put nukes in space, and just then at that point the world is theirs. So if you can't go there, and you want to fake being able to take power, it would be a case of if you fake going to the moon, you can say to the Russians, because effectively it's an America versus Russia scenario.
Yeah.
The Chinese are getting big as well, but it will be a case of you've been to space, we're going to the moon, and we're going to put nuclear bases on the moon. You guys,
anything you put in space, we can just shoot out from the moon.
Doesn't mean anything. So the only reason, in my opinion, to fake it will be to say we can one up you, and anything that you want to do, we can show the American people to appease the American people. Let's just they were.
This is twofold. This is twofold. This is two superpowers claiming dominance.
Yeah.
Whoever gets to the moon first is the dominant superpower.
I've got a bigger dick than you.
Yeah, but also for the national identity, this is for the American people. This is 60s. The American dream is alive in the sense that we've got subcultures coming out in America now. America's gone from white picket suburbia to hippies and Black Panthers and anti-war protesters and you've got people felt for the first time they could be free and you had a freedom of expression.
Yeah.
So this was something that no matter what subculture you belonged to, you could get behind this. Even if you were an anti-establishment hippie, you were, you could argue you were a staunch conservative and we're going to beat those damn commies and we're going to get to the moon because America, fuck yeah. Or you could be a hippie and just go, we're going to slip loose our earthly bonds and man's going out to the cosmos and we're going to explore. So either, whichever subculture you're part of, there's still a romanticism and a drive to go to the moon.
Yeah, because going to the moon it's just one of those ambitions which seemed, at the point of saying it in 63, seemed an impossibility. And so this romantic idea of we're going to do something that's completely unachievable and let's not forget, this is a Kennedy legacy. Kennedy assassinated in 63, and
he said we're going to go to the moon by the end of the decade.
And he was the most beloved president.
Oh, within a decade, I think he said, didn't he? Yeah.
Within this decade, yeah. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Scenario, his speech. But Kennedy was, when, at the point of his assassination in '63, he was revered. Not everybody loved him, but for the majority of people, he was a darling. He was
a symbol of America.
Yeah, and he was like this symbol of peace. The Cuban Missile Crisis was about to go nuclear, and he's like, people attribute that he stepped in and stopped a war, and he's trying to be peaceful. Then he gets assassinated, and the thing he said is, in this decade we are going to the moon. The people couldn't save their president, but fuck me, they'll stick to his legacy.
They can save his dream.
Deliver his legacy.
And it's that thing of what kind of country, if we can't save our president, we let our president die. Now if we let his dream die, what kind of people are we? We can, and I think even on a lower level, all the way down to the factory floor, it was this kind of like Britain in World War II, this dig for victory, this ripping up railings and donating pounds to turn into bullets and stuff, like we're all in this together, this blitz spirit.
Yeah.
I think it was a very similar thing in America at the time where you've got, do you know what, if we as a country can come together and put a man on the moon, then I can go to work and I can put in a fucking good shift and I can be proud of working this factory because even though I'm a small cog in the machine, I can see what the machine does. I'm just an American working in a factory, but I go to work, I work hard, I pay my taxes, and my taxes put a man on the moon. It gives people a sense of ownership and identity.
So to answer the question, why would you fake it? The people wanted to deliver the legacy of their president within the time frame that he said.
It's almost religious in a way.
Kind of, I suppose so. They wanted, yeah.
Kennedy's essentially a martyr or a prophet at this point, and doesn't matter what it takes or how we do it. This is more or less religious doctrine that we are going to the moon.
But if your parents are dying and they give you a dying wish, you do everything you could to deliver that dying wish. In the same way that when Kennedy died, darling of the people, and NASA are being funded to go do something, they have to deliver. They've got no choice. They have to deliver. There's nothing they can do about it. They've got to go, this was Kennedy's wish, and we're going to have to deliver on it, no matter what happens. Not to mention the fact they've been given $40 billion of funding, the pressure to deliver regardless.
And I think, like I said, Kennedy being a darling is a massive grief, like national grief, and this is shared throughout the entire nation. So it gives them something to rally around and focus their grief on, and everyone comes together and unites for it.
So the societal reason as to we want to unite our peoples. The secondary thing of wanting to deliver it for a president who's passed that we couldn't save, and he had a dream that we want to deliver on. The pressure of we have to win the Cold War, we have to make sure that the people aren't afraid anymore because they were afraid of nuclear war. Fourthly, we have to show that we are the superpower, we have to be better than the Russians. And then fifthly, we have to show the Russians that we can take a further step than you ever dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do it this quickly, if we can immobilise and get money this quickly. Loads of pressure to go to the moon.
All that thing was well that Russia put the first satellite in space, the first man, the first dog, the first woman, and it's like, yeah, you can have all those firsts, because they mean fuck all compared to Niel Armstrong walking on the moon.
Correct. So, if you can't make it, fake it scenario only holds credence if you technically we can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's every reason to fake it.
Well,
so that makes sense.
Yeah, the two reasons I've got here, there's a lot like there. We talked about quite a few different reasons there, and I picked two out here specifically because they stood out to me. Was Mary Bennett and David Percy have claimed in the 2001 book Dark Moon, Apollo and the Whistleblowers, that with all the known and unknown hazards, NASA would not risk broadcasting an astronaut dying on live television. The counter-argument generally given is that NASA, in fact, did incur a great deal of public humiliation and potential political opposition to the programme by losing an entire crew in the Apollo 1 fire during a ground test, leading to its upper management team being questioned by the Senate and House of Representatives of Space Oversight Committees. There was in fact no video broadcast during either the landing or takeoff because of technical limitations. So what they're saying is there was no broadcast of the takeoff or the landings because we didn't have the technology time to do it. We didn't have the technology time to film something on Earth, but we had the technology to get to the moon. And it never happened, it was all fake because there's so much stuff that could have gone wrong that we'd planned for, that hopefully we could plan and get rid of. So much more stuff we didn't even know that was going to happen. You know, like the Apollo 13 before it, and so it's just, yeah, it's that thing of, if we're going to beat Russia to it, and an astronaut dies, if Neil Armstrong comes out and someone on the moon they had no idea of just kills him, he's just died live on TV, that's a massive fucking blow to American pride and American reputation. So you don't know what's on the moon, you don't know what's going to happen, there's so many things, a million things that could go wrong that could kill him live on TV, so let's just fake it in this soundstage over here where we can control what happens, we can control the narrative, and therefore we don't get humiliated or lose political leverage or power, whatever you want to call it.
I suppose it's an argument, but I would say the counter argument will be that if we're talking 60s money here as well, $40 billion spent,
which I think was about 40% of the federal budget,
which is
at
insane.
that time.
That at that moment, given that much money, I'm pretty sure you can create the technology to do it.
I don't ever think
There's no need to fake it.
I don't think there's been a political endeavour that has been so widely agreed on and supported that it's taken up 40% of a country's national budget.
I agree, there's never been that I can think of, and I might be wrong, but there's never been where you've gone in America, you've got the Senate, you've got the people, you've got the Federal Reserve,
you've got the
media, everyone's going singularly, every single person wants this to happen and we want it to happen now.
And pretty much going, have every penny you have, every single cent you want.
What do we need to make it happen?
Like, you guys have got the intelligence and the skills to make it happen. What do you need? Money. We'll bring it in by the bucket full every day. Just keep having buckets and buckets of money.
We've got to hit this target.
We've got to hit that. I've never seen a country that spent 40% of its national budget on a singular goal and everybody agreed with it.
I don't think it's ever happened.
I don't think it has. Like, you can argue, like, it's not even 40% of our budget, but the UK spends a fuck ton of money every year on Trident, our nuclear deterrent programme. And the country's pretty much split 50-50 on that, whether we should have it or not.
Yeah, the one side of it is, if we don't have it, it's not a deterrent. The other side is, well, we're never going to use that money. Well,
we're never going to use it, so we're more or less setting fire to 200 billion a year or whatever it is. But that doesn't even come close to 40% of our GDP. But we're 50-50 on that. This was 40% of their federal national federal budget, and everyone was in agreement. That is staggering.
But it's the majority was in. I can't
Yeah.
imagine everybody.
No, the majority. But I think that's a bigger. That's almost as big an achievement of actually walking on the moon.
The only time you'll ever see anybody come together like this is if aliens came and were like, shit.
We want world peace tomorrow, and you get rid of all your
Project
matters.
Bluebeam.
Yeah. So yeah, the other one was the American Patriot Friends Network.
Who?
Yeah, I've never heard of them either. Claimed in 2009 that the landings helped the United States government distract public attention from the unpopular Vietnam War, and so crewed landings suddenly ended about the same time that the United States ended its involvement in the war.
But it's right, it did. It certainly was a fantastic distraction from real life and what was happening. It doesn't mean the moon landing was fake, but you can certainly use that as a mechanism of forget the war and the fact we've got people dying over there. Look at this rock star that we've just created. We're going to stick him on the moon. We're going to stick these people on the moon. These are an easy thing to distract people. You're spending all the money on something, and you're going to say, why wouldn't you use it as a distraction?
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you?
You're sending young boys out to die in a foreign country in a war that looks like it has no fucking end. It was supposed to be easy, and you're getting your arse handed to you. You're sending young boys after young boys every day to die. Caskets coming on in the hundreds, thousands at some points, I think. So yeah, you're gonna go. Do you know what? Let's get Niel Armstrong on the front of Life magazine. Look up Buzz Aldrin. He's driving the new fucking Chevy. It's being built in America by American hands, and look, an American car for an American hero. And you're an American hero too. You should buy this. It's that kind
Absolutely.
of. Look at the. Don't look at the bad news. Don't look at the horrible stuff. Look at the rock star. Look where we're going. Look what we're doing. Like we're getting our boys are killed. We're getting killed in Vietnam every day. But we're going to the moon. No other countries doing it. We're going to beat those damn Ruskies.
Don't you worry. When we go to the moon, and
it'll all end. When
the-
America lands on the moon, Vietnam will go. Sorry for fighting you.
fucking hell,
We can't get there, and you can't. We're sorry. We'll stop fighting now. And
But it was very. It's happened in history, and it will continue to happen. Where you go, like the magpie. Look at this big shiny object. The magpies look at the shiny object while he's stealing its eggs. It's like it happens throughout history. It happens constantly. Happens every week.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the most important thing that's happening in the world today. The news will just feed you it over and over and over again, and it's all you can digest. That you're willing to forget all the other stuff that's happening because you've been spoon-fed this amazing event. I mean, it was an amazing event, but you've been spoon-fed this is happening over and over and over again, and it's all you're going to see. And so, yes, at that point, if the news is only reporting on this major event, and it's not going to start reporting on all the insidious bullshit that's happening behind the scenes, which it normally would do, you can get away with so much more behind the scenes because it's just cloak and dagger. It's just completely, and it is a distraction technique. But I don't believe for 1 second that this was put together specifically for that.
No. I fully believe this was done to distract from the Vietnam War. It was used to distract from the Vietnam War. I don't think it was done purposely to distract from it.
No.
I think it was just a case of the Americans got a bit of fucking hubris that Vietnam, what the fuck is Vietnam? We'll go in there, we'll walk all over, and we'll be back home and having dinner by fucking Saturday. And then it went tits up and realised that while they've got the might and the numbers and the superior training and weaponry, they aren't going to fucking clue how to move through a jungle, and these bastards live in it and you can't even see them. And
Exactly.
like we've got these amazing tanks and weapons and guns and choppers, and it's like, yeah, but he's got 22 rounds and you can't see him. He's taking 20 out before you can find him.
It looks like a bush.
Yeah, he looks like a bush. Like you've never fought in a jungle before. You don't know what the fuck this is. So the kind of just went, shit, this has gone tits up. We need someone to distract the American people. What do we have?
We've got a moon.
We're going to go land on moon. Fucking get those cunts on front of Life magazine now. I want to see Buzz Aldrin on news driving the brand new Chevy. I want to see Niel Armstrong talking about how he's as American as apple pie, and he's just like you. When he walks on that moon, it's like you're walking with him. That's got to be the narrative. That's what we're pushing. And it's just to grab something that they had and used it, and look at the shiny.
And anybody in power would.
Oh, damn right.
Anybody in power. It's
Damn
obvious. I mean, she's absolutely right. Was it Mary and Dave?
Oh no, this was the American Patriot Friends Network. Yeah.
Absolutely, who wouldn't use it? Who wouldn't? I mean, we're going through a big global bastard. You know, everyone's been talking COVID, and Brexit's like, what? Brexit's happened. What?
Yeah.
When did we made a deal? What happened? I'm thinking about getting an inoculation, and fucking Brexit's come through the back door.
Well, it's that thing. It's like, oh, we were 2 days left to get a deal. 2 days talks are falling apart. We're going to get a deal. Look, we've got a vaccine. We've got a vaccine. You know that Brexit might fuck up my life and could tank the UK economy. We don't know what the future holds. Is all sincerely.
We've got a new variant of
fake COVID. You've not been able to go out of your house. Look at the vaccine. Look at the vaccine. We've got a vaccine. Look. There's people. Gandalf's getting the vaccine. You know.
If Gandalf's getting the vaccine, you shall pass.
You know, and it still happens today.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
The only bit I'll attack on this, or negate, I'm not sure it's right, is when
Not attacking.
they said the crude landing suddenly ended about the same time the United States ended its involvement in the war.
Okay.
Right?
Better pick up on that.
Which on the surface looks like it did. But both ended around about the same time.
Was it 69? Did they both end?
72. They both
Is that
ended.
Apollo 16, 17?
Yeah.
17.
17, right. But, no, 74 I think it was.
Was it?
Because NASA got told in 1970 that it's got a $40 billion budget. In 4 years' time, you're going to be $3 billion budget. So it's 40 billion this year, 30 billion next, 20 billion, 10 billion, 3 billion.
Oh, right, okay.
Right? Your budget's getting phased out over the next 4 years. So in 4 years' time, NASA couldn't afford to launch crewed missions. Right?
It was a massive expense, though.
It was.
I get the
We've
expense.
done it. We've been there. We achieved our goal. We can't keep pumping 40% of our fucking money into this. We've got other things, and we've got other things to fight and whatnot. But yeah, the Vietnam War ended around about the same time the crewed missions did. These two, they're a correlation, not a causation.
Yeah.
NASA knew 4 years before crewed mission ended that their budget were getting cut year on year. The American military didn't know they were going to be out of Vietnam in 4 years.
They could have been out within a year. They had no
Yeah,
idea.
they had no idea. So these things just married up. Coincidental. They're going, oh yeah, but if you notice, they were using this to distract us. Yeah, they completely were using it to distract people. Yeah, but you notice, as soon as we came out of Vietnam, they stopped putting crewed missions up. Well, they got told 4 years before they weren't going to be able to afford to. I don't think they stayed in Vietnam for 4 years. Like, they could have got out earlier, they fucking would have done.
Because, the war machine exploded.
So yeah, there were two interesting theories that I thought, like, why would it be hoaxed?
Yeah, good point.
Right, so I know I'm probably pissing people off at home right now because we've been on about half hour or something and we've not even started discussing the conspiracy, like why it was hoaxed or how. But I like to build, probably noticed by now, I like to build a solid foundation. Start from so we've gone how the hoax was created, how the hoax was first reported. We've looked at reasons for it, like why would the hoax in the first place?
Yeah.
And these are important, I think, we're going and looking at the evidence. So now one last thing I want to do before we get to it is, if they did carry out this hoax, how many people would need to be involved in it? Right?
Okay.
And thankfully we have James Longuski, who is a space engineer, worked with NASA in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Okay.
Right? And he said this conspiracy theory is impossible because of the size and complexity it would require to have more than 400,000 people to stay quiet. Right? And that's we need 400,000 people to work on the Apollo project for nearly 10 years. So that's the 12 men who walked on the moon, the 6 others who flew with them as command module pilots, another 6 astronauts who orbited the moon, hundreds of thousands of people, including astronauts, scientists, engineers, technicians, and skilled labourers, would have had to keep the secret. Longuski argues that it would have been much easier to really land on the moon than to generate and contain such a huge conspiracy.
It's probably right, but you don't. Out of those, you say 400,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
400,000 people don't need to be part of the conspiracy. If I'm one single person, am I my whole job in NASA is to make sure that the rocket has a certain valve, and I have to make sure it works and it's within certain temperatures and within certain sign-offs and all that scenario. And my job for the next 6 months is to make sure that works. I don't know anything else. I just created this little thing, and when I see that rocket go into space, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
If you decompartmentalise things, it's very easy.
And I think NASA was so compartmentalised.
Of course.
That, you know, you've got people working on the lunar lander, people working on the rocket, people working on the computer systems. That you see that rocket go up, you see that crew come back.
I'm done.
You'd go there, you'd go and you'd watch the launch. You spent 10 years working on this rocket, you see the launch, you're going to go home to get your wife and kids and your mates on TV and go, watch, and everyone, like we're talking about, this is a moment of singular, stubborn national motivation. This is, the whole country's come together for 10 years to make this happen, just because, like I say, they're not letting their president down and stuff. So everyone around the world start watching it, and everyone wants to see it live, and you have your mates around, a few drinks, watch it live, and then you just turn around to your mate and go, I put in there.
No, I built a small part of the rocket.
I built that tiny little washer, and it took me 10 years to perfect and build, but if I'd have done that wrong, that whole thing would have blown up. He's there because of my little washer. And your mate's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to bury it back, and your mate's like, you know what? You should be fucking proud. He's like, I'm proud of you, man. You put a fucking man on Moon today. It's like, yeah, you feel like you walked in his footsteps with him.
So what part of a conspiracy would he have to be part of? He wouldn't have to be.
No.
He just sees his work as just shot into space. He wouldn't know.
He sees the rocket go up, he sees the TV broadcast, and he sees the crew come back down. Now that rocket could have gone up, the crew go into orbit, and the rocket carries on to Earth, to the moon, comes back, and then the crew land, and in that time you broadcast the landing that you faked on a soundstage. Well, what, about 20, 30 people on a soundstage?
But how does Jeff, who just made a washer, know anything about that?
He didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
You know, the data engineers in the back, the thousands of data engineers that are compiling data and telemetry, they're seeing a rocket go around the moon. They're seeing all the numbers and stuff, but it's legit. It's gone around the moon. They've got there. They came back. They're not registering the telemetry from a capsule that's orbiting the Earth for a few days. So I don't think you need that many.
You'd still need a good chunk of people, though. It wouldn't be 400,000, 500,000 people.
No.
Because they wouldn't have anything. They wouldn't understand or know anything about it. But you still need.
No, look at your day-to-day work. You're a project manager, so you think you've got the project, you're in charge of every aspect of this project. You don't know what's going on at boardroom level of your company.
I'll put it simply as this: when I ask people as part of a project, so if I go to a third party and I say to them, I need you to install me some fibre for this part of my network, they've got no idea what we're using that fibre for.
No.
They don't know
what it's been connected to, what's on the systems.
Only the client at the end of it would sit there and go, I'm using that fibre for this, I need these people to come and do this, I need these people to install this, I need these people to move this suite here, and we'll bring it all together into one single place. That person knows what it's for. All these little people just do little jobs.
Doing little jobs, that they're doing the parts that make up the whole.
They know a little bit about what they've done, but they don't know who's coming in next week to do what's next. So in the exact same way that...
You've got over 400,000 people involved in putting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
You could probably have only 50 of them know it will fake.
Realistically...
Probably 100, 200.
Obviously, let's try to break it down. You did the astronauts, 100%.
Yeah.
They all have to be complicit and be silent. The backup astronauts have to be complicit and be silent.
Even if you faked it on a soundstage, the filming crew and the soundstage crew wouldn't actually know the faking the moon landings. We could be running tests, we're just testing the equipment. It needs to test getting in and out of the...
Well, they would, because you'd have to use the proper astronauts.
Yeah, but you'd use the proper astronauts, but you're coming in and out, like, why are we filming coming in and out and he's on wires to simulate that? It's a training scenario, because we don't know what it is, so we're going to have to trace now, and then, well, why are you filming it? So we can go back and look over the data, and if Neil says, my right elbow felt a bit weird in that suit, right, let's see how it came down. We've got the wires on to simulate 1/6 gravity, and we see, like, right, you're losing momentum, so we need to change this washer on this suit here to give you more momentum. That's what we were looking to look over the data. Like, so the people who've just fucking faked the landing that's going out on TV have no idea they faked the landing. They were just running a training exercise.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. Well, whether or not I believe that at all. But you do not need families like you only need really. You'll just need a handful of
high elite conspirators.
I'd say so. It's too easy to say there's 400,000 people, they all need to keep quiet. No, those 400,000 people don't know.
Yeah.
They've worked in a little bit, and they've got no idea of the whole picture. I mean, they probably do know the whole picture, because they know they're going in to do a rocket. But they don't know the whole programme, about what the astronauts are doing, where they're working, what they're eating, who they're talking to.
But it's that thing as well, like you were saying earlier, so you're a project manager in your day-to-day life. Like, so you've got your budget for your project. You don't have any fucking clue about the company finances.
No.
Only the accountant does. But the accountant sees numbers come across his page that you're spending on your project. You haven't got a fucking clue what's being spent on.
Not till I tell them.
Yeah, but you know, all he's seeing you're spending X amount of money on a project, and he tallies that up with the accounts. He doesn't know what that's gone on fibre or on the software or whatever. You know, he has no idea what it's gone on. You don't fucking care. At the same time, you don't know if the company is fucking loaded or facing bankruptcy because you can't see the accounts. You're just running. You know you've got X budget for this project.
That's right.
So you're in a massive corporation and you have no idea. Like another way of putting it is like look at Amazon. They must have 500,000 people employed worldwide, easily, I reckon. Does that guy who's packing boxes in an Amazon warehouse know what sales is doing, or what advertisement's doing, or what's being discussed in the boardroom? Or, you know, that guy doesn't know what's coming on Amazon Prime next week. The guy who's responsible for getting shows on Amazon Prime next month doesn't know how Amazon Prime works, how much is being spent on data and engineering systems and infrastructure. So it's like, yeah, the fact that 400,000 people worked on it doesn't mean 400,000 people knew what were going on.
That's right.
Agreed. So yeah, so he
could talk about that all day, to be honest.
Yeah, we could do actually. I love that. It's people. It was 400,000 people. Someone would have spoke at one point. Well, yeah, because you've got that. I know something really big, and I need to tell someone. You know, that's just human nature. But also, 400,000 people didn't fucking know what were happening. Left hand didn't know what the right hand were doing, basically. But another little interesting fact I found out about this, right, is that to date, nobody from the United States government or NASA linked to the Apollo program has said the moon landing were hoaxes. There's nobody connected. We had that guy come out earlier, Casings, but he was a technical writer on the Saturn V rocket for Rocketdyne.
Right.
So he never actually worked with NASA or had any of the projects, so no one's come out from it. And Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller made a note in this in the conspiracy theories episode of his television show Penn and Teller Bullshit in 2005. He argued with a number of people involved and noting that the Watergate scandal only had a dozen people involved and that broke. He noted that someone would have outed the hoax by now. And I think that's a fair point to make, is that someone would have gone, I know something, I need to tell someone. And this is how most conspiracy theories come about, you know, Roswell and people telling what they've heard and stuff like that. But again, I think you're getting bogged down that with 400,000 people, someone would have spoke out. But it's not 400,000 people.
It's not, and then what you're basically then saying is you leave it down to, you're asking military men who's taken over, who are conditioned, and also then the astronauts who are complicit, who will then say, I'm a celebrity, I've got such financial backing, I've got this place in history. The only way that they could come out is to say that it happened, is to say, well, my legacy means fuck all. We lied to the American people for 50 years, we lied to the world for this. So you're not going to get the astronauts coming out going, yeah, we faked it too. So, you know, for the people who were in the know, who knew everything from start to finish, these guys are going to be in the echelons of the government, in the echelons of the military. Put it simply, President Trump, soon to be Biden, the CIA, one of the things we've talked going back to Kennedy, he wanted to break down the CIA because he's got no idea what they do.
Oops, he got assassinated.
And so, you know, even now you've got a president of the United States who doesn't know what all these organisations are doing.
Yeah.
You know, and he's meant to be the tip of the spear. So it's very easy to say he doesn't know everything from all these other people doing all these sorts of things. So why would anybody here know?
This
what's
is
happening?
where I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I don't believe the American president is the highest authority in the land. Because if, we see all these conspiracies about Roswell and UFO landings and reverse engineering Area 51 and stuff, and it's like, well, if the president is the highest authority, then, he'd get a briefing and they're like, oh yeah, we have this discussion with 4 alien races, we meet once a month and talk or whatever. Can you imagine Trump staying quiet? If Trump got told that, oh yeah, the American government speak with alien races, it'd be on TV an hour later. Taking credit, I'm the greatest ever, I'm the greatest president ever, so much so that I opened America up to the galaxy, and I told people aliens exist, no, we don't tell people, it's going to cause mass panic, people are going to fucking, religious institutions will fall overnight, and whether you believe in religious institutions or not, our society are built on them, that's how we run, this is why we can't tell people. Trump's going to be like, nah, but I'll be a fucking legend for telling people, I'm going to go tell them. So, if you believe that aliens exist in American contact with them, I don't fucking believe Trump's been told about it.
Well, no.
It's that thing from...
I'm just trying to think of how we're linking this back into this...
No, it's been saying when you talk about conspiracies and people being involved and knowing, it's that thing from, is it Independence Day? Where there's, is it Bill Pullman as the president? Where someone says, someone goes, why don't you just get your UFOs out of Area 51? And he goes, there is no such thing as aliens at Area 51. And then General Grant goes, Anthony, sir... we don't tell you because presidents change every 4 or 5 years and this is a 50-year programme.
Yeah.
You don't need to know until you need to know.
Exactly. When they come down and blow your ass up, then you need to know.
Oh, by the way, we have this. But that's why we're going to all your small people need to know and stuff
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't believe the president knows everything that's happening at Area 51 because why tell him when he's going to be gone in 4 years? We've been doing this for 20.
And the same way, why do I need to know when I'm just making a little part of the rocket? Why do I need to know the whole programme? I don't. I just need to know what I'm told to do and getting paid. Yeah. Told to fuck off. Be happy you're part of the programme. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, let's move on because I think we're getting into Majestic 12 shadow government kind of territory here. So
next week,
let's stick to the moon landings. So now what I'm going to do here is a little bit different. Because during the research, I found, ended up on the Wikipedia page for the moon landings.
Okay.
For the moon landings. So I'm going to put that's in the description now. So if you want to go pause the video, click on that link, load it up. Because the way this page is set out is just perfect for this video.
Can I just say, I didn't look at Wikipedia once.
So you don't know what's going on?
I've got no idea.
I looked at this and just went, do you know what? I can spend the next 4 hours trying to structure a show. And it's there and it's done.
Okay.
Right? So, if you want to look at the Wikipedia page, load it up right now. And come read along as Craig reads along. Because he ain't got a clue what's coming either.
I'm going to get my crayons out.
Ringo Starr!
I didn't go that
What are you trying to do? That's what you setting me up for. I'll play along.
You reeled me in. You went fishing.
I got you over there.
Simpsons you got me on. Fucking reeled me in on the Simpsons. You went fishing, I bit. At the end it's like, you bastard. Go fishing.
Right, so we're going to jump.
If I say crayons, that's it.
We're going to jump into the evidence now.
It's this evidence.
Yeah. So we've set up how the hoax came to light.
Yeah.
We've set up why would NASA even hoax it in the first place.
Give a few thoughts.
And we've looked at how many people would it need to contain this hoax.
Yeah.
So I think we have a nice solid basis now with that understanding to go forward and actually look at the evidence that's being put forward for hoaxes.
Let's have a look.
Right. Now, I'm just going to read out the bit of evidence and then let you respond to it.
Alright, okay.
Because all the Wikipedia page has every bit of evidence nicely laid out and structured, but every bit of evidence is followed by a rebuttal. Like this is evidence and this is why it's wank. Right? Okay. So I've got them in here, but I'm just going to give the evidence and then we can discuss it point by point.
And then you're going to ask me to try debunk it, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, you might debunk it, you might be in favour of it, I don't know what you've got there in your pages.
Okay, let's go.
Right, so the first section of evidence is photographic and film oddities.
Okay.
Right, so in some photos, the crosshairs appear to be behind objects. The cameras were fitted with a Rusu plate, a clear glass plate with a recticle etched on. making it impossible for any photographed object to appear in front of the grid. Conspiracists often use this evidence to suggest that objects were pasted over the photographs and hence obscure the reticle.
Do you know what? This is one of those things.
This blew my mind when I first saw this in the 90s.
And this was one of those things what I was saying when I saw the video, the crosshair discussion was part of the evidence.
I think the first one I ever saw was like the bottom line of the crosshair was behind a rock, and that's just stayed into my brain. I remember that.
I think I saw the moon buggy, and a crosshair behind the moon buggy, and I was like, this is fucking obvious.
Yeah, you can't deny that. That's.
So I had no ability to look at that. I'm still not a photographic expert.
But you're more intelligent and have an understanding of technology and how it works.
Well, it's not an intelligence, but it's having more of a case of, okay, someone's saying something and going, okay, let me go away and take what you've advised me as your standpoint now, and going, my duty now to see whether that's true or not. So in regards to crosshairs and stuff, I accept the response that I've been given, because we can see it here on Earth. We could do it with many things in regards to being crosshairs disappeared when a brightly lit white object basically was behind an object that's brightly lit, and the crosshairs disappear. There were other pictures, so they very casually chose specific pictures as to where the crosshair was completely gone. But you see some other pictures where there's a part crosshair, there's a part picture, and the rest of the crosshairs come out the other side. So it's not just laid over the top. Effectively, it's the intense light reflecting off a white surface, and it's bleeding around the crosshair and saturating the film, and it obliterates the crosshair. The phenomenon's common, and it's not it's not evidence. So when I first saw this, I'd never seen it before. It blew my mind. But the more you investigate, and the more you can see crosshairs and reflection, especially on how they took photos in the 60s and the 70s about bleeding, that the bleed, I think it's an acceptable response, that bleeding around the crosshairs and the saturation of the film and how the pictures were taken is an acceptable response.
Yeah, I mean the Wikipedia article here has, it is caused by overexposure. The bright areas of the emulsion bleed over the thin black crosshairs. The crosshairs are only about 0.004 inches thick, which is 0.1 millimetre.
Right.
And the emulsion would only have to bleed about half that much to fully obscure it, right? But there's an interesting fact before that I think debunks it. To me, that bleed just like, yeah, that explains it.
I think it's acceptable, yeah.
There's one little line before that says, this effect only appears in copied and scanned photos, not in any originals.
Were they all copied and scanned?
Like every time you see the photo with a crosshair,
right,
it's a photo that's been copied, and it's not the original NASA photo.
Right, okay.
It's a photo that's been copied and scanned, and that's where the emulsion bleed comes in.
How can we prove that though?
I can't, I'm just going by what it says here. I think it's an interesting thing, but...
My rebuttal to that would be, I don't know of any evidence that says that the original photos were taken, you could see the crosshairs, and scanned ones you can't see.
Yeah.
So I can't take that on face value, because I don't know.
No, but I can take the bleed.
accept
I can accept the bleed.
Yeah.
Furthermore, there are many photos where the middle of the crosshair is washed out, but the rest is intact. In some photos of the American flag, parts of one crosshair appear on red stripes, but parts in the same crosshair are faded or invisible on the white stripes. There would have been no reason to paste white stripes onto the American flag.
So you can't see this. I'm not going to be able to show this on camera, but you can see there's a part there where it goes. You can see it as soon as it hits the white. You can't see it. It comes out the other side. So and there's loads of these.
There's same again there with it. I can put this one up, but the red flag was on about. It disappears into the white stripe, right? Yeah. Why would they paste a white stripe over the crosshair? They wouldn't. So, what, you're going to doctor a red and white stripe flag by pasting white stripes on top of a white stripe?
I mean, that's an even better photo.
I can put that one up, and if you read along with the article, you can see where we're at. So yeah, and it shows you all the other pictures. You can see everywhere the crosshair disappears. You can still kind of see the crosshair on his back there. Now, is that the crosshair, or is that part of his backpack? Could be either one, but the point stands, it's in a white area that it disappears.
It's not in dark areas.
Yeah, so I think that kind of does that. The quality of the photographs is implausibly high.
Okay.
So this is the argument that
If I wrote anything, if I got anything like this.
in the 60s and 70s, you know, camera technology wasn't like digital cameras like we have now. And we remember in the 90s where you take photos and they come out overexposed and blurred and you got your pictures back and stuff. The argument here is that they won't even hold up a camera and look, and they saw the cameraman on the chest, so
That's right.
they're looking at something, but the camera's looking here, but every photo they're perfectly framed. And
Are we on about framing or quality of photo?
the quality of them, the quality of the photographs is implausibly high.
Right, before I try to talk about this, I want to be very specific. So, is it a case of they're saying the megapixel quality of the picture, you can see the colour, you can see the clarity?
They're saying the colour, the clarity, and also the framing. Like, if you look at that one you've got there, just there for instance, it's perfectly framed in the middle of the shot, like a photographer's taking the time and effort to put me in place where it is. But that's a camera on his chest, there's no way he could line that shot up.
I can answer that part,
Go on.
in my opinion. Most of the photos are cropped.
Mm-hmm.
So, every single photo that they have all these crosshairs on. But in lots of NASA photos that you see, you might see that the astronauts in the bottom left part of the picture, there's all the space around it and they've cropped that bit. So all the crosshairs will be all dotted all over the picture, but they'll just take that part of the photo and go, well, that's the part that we want to see.
Yeah.
So they cropped loads of photos, and you could, in fact, actually, when you go into the archive that they released, where they released every single photo, there's some right shit shots on there.
Well, this was the point I had here,
shite ones.
is that there are many poor quality photos taken by the Apollo astronauts. NASA chose only to publish the best examples.
Oh, some of them were shite. It's sort of blurry and just showing pictures of nothing. It's like some just black pictures. It's like it's loads of bollocks. But
and I think they were taking a picture every 2 seconds. I think on the Apollo missions, I think it took a picture every 2 seconds over the 2 astronauts. So yeah, not everyone's going to be a great picture, but why would you release a blurry shit photo when you've got this? I've got this great photo of Niel Armstrong stood holding the American flag. Yeah, there were 30 photos before it and 30 after it because he's just gone click, 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 click. You know, one of them came out good. Well, you only released that one. Why would I release the others?
So what we were talking about in the Beatles, do you remember when we were talking about when they're going across Abbey Road?
Yeah.
And they chose that specific one because it's brilliant. But there's 5 other ones that's random shit.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
It's exactly the same
Pick the best one, and they absolutely cropped them. Absolutely. They went, this is the part of the picture I want to see. You don't need to see the rest of the other stuff.
I mean, this means nothing to me, but there might be some technically minded people out there. But in explaining the quality of the photographs, like the colour and the composition and stuff,
right.
was the Apollo astronauts used high-resolution Hasselblad 500 EL cameras with Carl Zeiss optics and a 70mm medium format film magazine.
Makes perfect sense.
Now, I don't know what that means, but the fact that they go, well, these photos are ridiculously good quality, they're implausible good quality. Well, here's the camera they used, here's the lens they used, and here's the magazine they used. Go take photos and see how good quality they come out with. It actually works, they're good quality. There you go. That's the equipment we used, and you can do the same photos. Done.
Yeah, it's not like they went, I'm not going to tell you what we used.
It's like, oh, we used some secret society proprietary NASA tech. Like, no, we used this camera, this lens, and this film. Go test it.
Go yourself. Yeah.
Oh, look, you took a beautiful picture of a landscape. It's implausibly good quality.
Well, fuck I don't.
Do you know what? Fuck I don't. We spent £40 million sending people to the moon, and we used the best cameras available. Who'd have funked it? You know,
you're not going to use a little fucking clicker one, are you?
yeah, like, I mean, I've got to wind it on.
Hold on.
You just spent 40 billion flying to the moon, you come back, get a photo developed, and it's Neil Armstrong's thumb in front of all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't take a photo for shit.
But no, I just look, even though I don't understand what those bits are, they've just gone, this is the camera, this is the lens, this is the film magazine. You go test them.
Crack on, lads.
Crack on. Yeah, look, they make good quality photos, don't they? Yeah, we knew what we were setting up.
I quite like this. You're firing questions at me to see if I know the answer.
Right. Next. There are no stars in any of the photos.
That's easy.
The Apollo 11 astronauts also stated in post-mission press conferences that they did not remember seeing any stars during EVAs. Conspiracists contend that NASA chose not to put the stars to the photos because astronomers would have been able to use them to determine whether the photos were taken from Earth or the Moon by means of identifying them and comparing their celestial position and parallax to what would be expected from either observation site. So there's a lot to unpack in there. So let's start with there's no stars in the photographs.
That's just based upon the shutter speed and the and they have to use long exposure cameras, don't they? I think, based upon the fact that there's a single light source, and so therefore you have to be able to take into immediate light for what you can see. The stars are just too dim to be captured as light sources.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. What do you think about the astronauts saying they don't remember seeing any stars? So the astronauts have said in press conferences they did not remember seeing any stars during EVAs. Because I think they got asked what it was like to stand on the moon and look and see the stars. I don't remember seeing any stars. And I was like, oh, that's proof they weren't there because if they were on there, yeah, camera stars are too dim to pick up, but they'd have seen them.
I'll just guess because I don't know the answer, but the moon is just a big reflective surface. It means nothing that these stars are dim.
The explanation here is that the astronauts were talking about naked eye sightings of stars, so I can't see them, during the lunar daytime. They regularly sighted stars through the spacecraft navigation optics while aligning their internal reference platforms on the Apollo, PG and SCS. But basically, it's just it's more or less what you said, it's lunar daytime. It's the sun's at its brightest during the lunar daytime, and the moon's a reflective surface. It's like standing outside the house going, I can't see any stars. Yeah, because you're stood under a fucking lamppost, you dickhead. Move 4 steps to the left and you can see stars. But you stood right under a lamppost, you're not going to see stars. There's no... people don't realise, well, when sunlight hits our planet, it hits our atmosphere and refracts and disperses. There's no atmosphere to stop it, so it just hits the moon and reflects. So, yeah, you're not... Again, you've got a massive light source and these dim light sources. You know what I mean? But when they went into the lunar lander, into the spacecraft and stuff, because of the windows and the optics they used to calibrate where they were and stuff, they could see stars. But you can't see them with the naked eye. When it proves you weren't on the moon if you can't see them, don't wear that way. Yeah, I can stand that lamppost outside and not see them. Also, looking like stars not being in the pictures, and there's a great explanation here that stars are rarely seen in space shuttle, near Earth observation photos, or even photos taken at sporting events held at night. The light from the sun in outer space in the Earth-Moon system is at least as bright as the sunlight that reaches the Earth's surface on a clear day at noon. So cameras used for imaging subjects illuminated by sunlight, except for a daylight exposure. The dim light of the stars simply does not provide enough exposure to record visible images. All crewed landings happen during the lunar daytime, thus the stars were outshone by the sun and by sunlight reflected off the moon's surface. The astronauts' eyes were adapted to the sunlit landscape around them so they could not see the relatively faint stars. The astronauts could see stars with the naked eye only when they were in the shadow of the moon.
And I think that's
I think that wraps it up quite nicely.
I think that's an explanation which I can buy.
Yeah, even when they go even sporting events at Earth. So yeah, I reckon next time you're watching football on Sky, it's not on a night match. There's an 8 o'clock kickoff or something on Sky. Have a look at the sky when you can see the pitch and a bit of the stadium in the sky. See if you can see any stars in there. Bet you can't.
I think you might be able to see the really, really bright ones, but I think for the vast majority of the back, you generally won't see any.
There's a lot more there about that, but I'm going to skip through it. There's a lot of photos. The angle and colour of shadows are inconsistent. This suggests that artificial lights were used.
For me, even back in the day when I was buying into this, the shadow thing I didn't really buy. Because even if I'm looking around this room now, if you stand on it, if you've got moonlight, so I've been out, fucking pitch black, no light lamps around, going on a really nice walk, only see moonlight and see shadows from the moon. And for me that's a single source of light, but I can still see shadows in different directions. And one of the reasons I could, for one of them that I specifically remember, is I'd be walking on a flat plane and look down the side of the hill, and it's on a hill, but it looks like it's going in from one angle and I'm walking in a straight angle, so whilst the shadows are pointing at me because I'm going directly ahead and I can see the shadows pointing at me, when I look to the left the shadows are sort of pointing at a different angle because it's on a slope. And there's different, if it's a completely flat plane, I get that. Secondly, we need to remember The moon's surface is still a reflection. I'm reflective.
Yeah.
I'm in a white suit.
In a bright white suit reflecting light, the moon's surface reflecting light.
There's surface reflection, and also when you've got rocks, they reflect off each other as well. It's too easy to say you've got a single light source, so therefore you've got single shadows. Actually, there's many more subtleties in how shadows are formed than it is just to say we've got a single light source, you're pointing one direction. No, there's light reflects off each other constantly. I'm really reflective when I'm in a big white suit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got here. Shadows on the moon are complicated by reflected light, uneven ground, wide-angle lens distortion and lunar dust. There are several light sources: the sun, sunlight reflects from the Earth, sunlight reflects from the moon's surface, and sunlight reflects from the astronauts and the lunar module. Light from these sources is scattered by lunar dust in many directions, including the shadows. Shadows fall into craters, and holes may appear longer, shorter and distorted. Furthermore, shadow display and the properties of vanishing point perspective lead them to converge to a point on the horizon. So, yeah, basically what you just said, like, if you've got a flat plane, it's flat light throughout, whether it's reflective surface or not, but you've got reflective surface, and then a hill up here. Well, that hill casts its own shadow, which then bends light a different way. And, so, yeah.
I wrote some science with some numbers.
Ooh!
So, like I said, the luminosity of this sun is 3.827 times the power of 26 watts. At the sun-moon distance of 93 million miles, each square foot of the surface area receives 126 watts of solar radiation.
So next, the 1994 book Moonshot contains an obviously fake composite photo of Alan Shepard hitting a golf ball on the moon with another astronaut.
Why is it obvious? What's the explanation of why it's obviously fake? What's obviously fake about it?
It says here, it was used instead of the only existing real images from the TV monitor, which the editors seemingly felt were too grainy for their book. The book publishers did not work for NASA, although the authors were retired NASA astronauts. So basically they've gone, there's a picture of Alan Moore hitting a golf ball off the moon, and because they do it just so they could say he's got the world's longest drive or something.
Something like that.
It's like,
That Al Shepard, wasn't it?
yeah, Alan Shepard, yeah, just when I'd like to see someone beat that drive. Well, what's the longest drive? 300 yards? Mine's 300 fucking light years, mate, and still going. It's a cool thing, I like that, that's kind of a trollish thing to do and I like it. But, in the 1994 book Moonshot, it contains an obviously fake composite photo. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be publishing purposes, you know.
Well, it said here,
More.
the only existing real images from the TV monitor, which the editors felt were too grainy for their book, so they touched it up a bit.
And they said so.
And they went, yeah, he's obviously paper touched it up. I went, yeah, but this proves that he didn't do that, he wasn't there. No, it just proves the original image is shit, so we've done a bit of, and now we have the technology to like digitally manipulate it a bit and make it clearer and clearer so you can actually see when
we
you're
do
supposed
that
to see.
everyday life on so many media platforms. But it doesn't mean when a model goes on a photo shoot and she gets all the fat taken off of her from airbrushing, she was really there. It's just been touched up.
Snapchat filters.
Exactly.
You know, people all around the world do it daily with Snapchat filters. Yeah, I don't. And this is just like just because they touch up the photo to make it better quality, and you can really see what we're doing, doesn't mean he didn't do it. They can go, here's the original photo. You can look anytime you want, but we just did this because if you look at it, it looks better. But if that looks better, and you can see what more. This photo's not there to prove it was on the moon. This photo's there to give a visual representation of what the writing above and below is about.
Exactly.
So we made it nice and clear and nice and crisp. But you know, we can put this one in if you want. We're not hiding out. You can have this one that's shit. We just thought you prefer this one more. Like,
We coloured it in.
yeah, pretty much. Ringo Starr.
You've got like this very special thing now when you want to do a draw thing.
Ringo Starr.
We're going to be kicked off YouTube very, very quickly. What's your next one?
There appear to be hotspots in some photos that look like a large spotlight was used in place of the sun.
I do have notes on this somewhere. I promise. I think it gets down to heat and glass. I think it gets down to if I can find my fucking notes, but I'm sure it's something on the lines of there's some glass in the moon rock, and it reflects the sun in a certain way. I need to find it now.
You pretty much bang on the money.
Right, okay. I can't remember. I need to read again.
Pits on the moon's surface focus and reflect light like tiny glass spheres used on the coating of street signs or dewdrops on wet grass. This creates a glow around the photographer's own shadow when it appears in a photograph.
Very good idea.
If the astronaut is standing in sunlight while photographing a shade, light reflected off his white spacesuit yields a similar effect to a spotlight. Some widely published Apollo photos were high contrast copies. Scans of the original transparencies are generally much more evenly lit.
Yeah, okay. I've got something very similarly written. The hotspots are the results of the lunar soil's tendency to reflect light back towards its source. There are many reasons for this, but it's mostly due to the countless tiny glass spheres found in the lunar soil and formed by meteorite impacts. When you see a photo taken sundown, or down sun, away from the sun, you see what looks like a spotlight around the shadow's head. This is because the light is strongly reflected back towards the sun, so the soil on the head of the shadow looks very bright.
Yeah, pretty much. And like the explanation here was that, similar, more or less exactly as that, but the light reflects off the glass spheres in the soil. You're wearing a bright white suit, so the sunlight's reflecting off the soil, reflecting onto your suit, and bouncing off again. You're essentially your own spotlight when taking a photograph. Don't forget the camera's here, so the camera's mounted in the middle of your big white suit. You're essentially a spotlight around it. It's quite technically brilliant because you've just got your own lighting rig wherever you go.
Well, unless you've got an atmosphere, then you should. But yeah.
Um,
But yes, I think that's a. I can't tell if that's a right or wrong explanation, but
It makes sense to me.
Many people have agreed with that as an explanation, so
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist.
But I can see how that works. It makes sense to me.
That makes more sense than there's a spotlight in a specific place
Yeah.
when I take into consideration everything else.
And like you say, there's a spotlight on this place with him perfectly staged in frame centre. But no, that's the light reflecting off the surface onto his bright white suit. And that's not a perfectly framed photo. That's just the bottom left corner of this big massive photo that they cut out and cropped. We were talking about earlier. It makes sense to me. This is one for the idiots.
Yes!
If Niel Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon,
We took the photo.
who filmed Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon?
We'll give it 30 seconds. We'll give it 10 seconds and let the idiot shout at the camera.
Who could? If he's the first person on the moon, there must have been someone before him that was holding the camera to film him.
But
That
didn't go,
makes
did we?
sense.
We didn't go to the moon, so.
Which proves we didn't go, because it proves that he's not the first man on the moon, because someone was holding the camera to film him. Because if he actually went to the moon, there couldn't have been someone there holding the camera, so it proves that it was all filmed on Earth.
And it's funny because NASA clearly didn't think of this.
Not at all. You know, this $40 billion that, 40% of the federal budget, and you're going to go, shit, you don't think to bring a cameraman?
Fuck! We've landed at the moon.
We're going to record this for posterity. Nah, they really. We'll just tell people we went.
We'll just have someone telling us I landed. That'll keep conspiracy theories away. Very simple.
Go on.
Well, the TV camera was stored in the LEM at the said stage, and it's basically controlled by Armstrong, top of the ladder. That's not Buzz Aldrin, was it, who switched the camera on the LEM cabin. So it's basically part of the legs. The camera popped up when it landed, and Buzz Aldrin
Just
said, let's record as it's moving. So any generic remote control camera.
Who filmed Neil Armstrong? Cameras on the Lunar module did.
Buzz Aldrin, I think.
The Apollo TV camera mounted in the modularised equipment storage assembly and the Apollo lunar module gave a view from the exterior. Whilst on the module's ladder steps, Armstrong deployed the MESA from the side of the lunar module, unpacking amongst other things the TV camera. The TV camera was then powered on and signal transmitted back to Earth. This meant that upwards of 600 million people on Earth could watch the live feed with only a very slight delay. Similar technology was also used on subsequent Apollo missions. It was also filmed from an automatic 16mm movie camera mounted in the window of the lunar module.
Are you telling me that it wasn't Stanley Kubrick?
It wasn't.
Damn it.
I do have something about Stanley Kubrick later.
Excellent.
So that's the photographic and video evidence done.
Right then.
Do you have what else to add to that, or?
No, we'll talk about anything that I think you might miss later on. We'll come to something I might have at the end, maybe.
Okay, so we'll move on to environment then.
Okay.
I told you this was brilliantly structured, it just went, I don't need to do all. So, environment. The astronauts could not have survived the trip because of exposure to radiation from the Van Allen radiation belt and galactic ambient radiation. Some conspiracies have suggested that Starfish Prime, a high-altitude nuclear test in 1962, formed another intense layer on the Van Allen belt.
Yep.
This was the one that got me for years. Like we can't even get to, like, let's not even think about the photos and the stars and all this lot when we can't even get through the Van. We don't have the technology to get through the Van Allen belt. That stopped it dead for me. So the moment I learned about the Van Allen belt and I looked into it, just went, yeah, we don't have the technology to get through it. So the moon landings could never have happened because we couldn't get there.
Well, we could always get through it, just couldn't stop the radiation.
And nothing's passed through it since the moon landing missions. There's no manned craft passed through it since.
Well, we've talked about the finances of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't realise. So the Van Allen belt for me was one of those other ones that was like, it's one of those. It's not someone saying, "Ooh, look, this isn't dust," or "Ooh, look at the sea on the picture." This was, we've got some science, we've got some people, and you're sticking them through radiation, and therefore they should have a resounding problem.
Yep.
And because we've not seen any of the astronauts suffering from boils or cancer or brain injuries or anything like that you typically find with any form of radiation.
Actually, statistically, astronauts who've been into space, even if it's just to the ISS, like it's fuck all. But yeah, astronauts on the ISS are 6% more likely to have cancer in later life than Earthbound humans.
They're still being, even on a small level, they're still being taking more radiation, even on a small level, than anybody in human race, anybody on Earth, because they're not being protected by
the atmosphere.
By an atmosphere.
Yeah.
So there's still, they're still getting a few extra rats, regardless of what you think.
It works out.
The exposure's still there.
I think it works out astronauts from the ISS are 6% more likely to develop cancer than someone who's Earthbound.
They're still getting more radiation rats, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Even if it's on a very small level.
Yeah.
But the difference with the ISS, though, in comparison to the moon, in comparison to the rocket, is they spend weeks, if not months, on the ISS in space. These guys spent, what was it, a week or something, just on a rocket to the moon and back?
Yeah. I mean, this is, when you talk about statistic data for ISS, then there's 6% more likely to have cancer. This is looking at people who spend on average, between 200 and 500 days in orbit. These guys spent about a week. But the argument is, these guys that land on the moon pass through the Van Allen belt. The guys that are spending 200 to 500 days on the ISS are nowhere near the Van Allen belt, they're way below it, they're just above Earth's orbit.
But they're still in a zone of unprotected radiation. But regarding the Van Allen belt, this took me a while to swallow. But the stats are real, the science is real.
This was one of the big ones for me, that we can't pass through it, and the fact that nothing since the lunar landing missions, no manned craft has passed through it since. And I remember someone on a program once quoting like, "Oh well, when you watch, but it's okay because they had an aluminium ship and some special layers of gold tinfoil." And they're like, "Well, you dress someone up in that suit and send them into clean 3 Mile Island, then I'll believe that suit protects from radiation." And it felt like, no, he's got a fucking good point. And then as time goes on, you learn more knowledge and you absorb more information. And you go, they're completely different fucking kinds of radiation.
They are completely different.
They don't work in the same way.
And exactly, so I'll just read very simply. The guys in the rocket on all the trips took approximately 2 hours overall. They were in the Van Allen radiation for about 2 hours. Travelling so far, it's an hour in there and an hour back.
Yeah.
for anybody to have radiation sickness, it's between 1 to 200 rem, which is what radiation's measured in. And to die or get death dose is 300 rem, at least. The amount of rem radiation that they were taken within these guys was 2.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that they, where we got here, they cited an average dose of less than 1 rem, which is equivalent to the ambient radiation received by living at sea level for 3 years. The total radiation received on the trip was about the same allowed for works in the nuclear field for a year, and not much more than what space shuttle astronauts received. So this was like, yeah, they passed through in an hour there and an hour back.
So fast, yeah.
And they got the same amount of radiation than you'd get working in a nuclear power plant for a year. So they got a year's worth of radiation in an hour.
But
Which could have some effect, having that much radiation that quickly, but still not enough. And also, they didn't fly out and just go, oh, there's the moon, we're off to the moon. And went through the belt. They studied the Van Allen belt. They knew this was a thing long before the public knew it was.
Yeah.
And they looked at it and found the weakest point of it at that time of year. And so they came up and
they curved through it. Yeah.
Curved through it and then went through the shortest bit and came back again.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's explainable to me.
But it wasn't for a long time.
It wasn't for a long time. A long time was just like the Van Allen belt and you can't get through it. And again, I didn't have the internet, I didn't have access to information to find if this was a thing or not.
And we've seen some other, I'm sure I've seen like the building the new sets of space shuttles and so on and so forth. And there was a video going about the guy going, well, you know, we've got to get through this deadly radiation we can't fly through for the Van Allen belt, and we're going to create this new radiation scenario. People were going absolutely bonkers, going, this is proof you can't get through the Van Allen belt. What he was kind of talking about wasn't about protecting the people, it was about protecting the electronics on the on this, because this that went there was just like basically a Coke can with this with a calculator.
Yeah, I think I've heard the quote that the combined computing power of the Apollo rockets was the same as a Casio calculator watch we had in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's very simple, really. The reason for that is very simple. All the calculations were done on Earth and sent to the rocket. It just had to receive them. It was doing no calculations of its own. It's all manual calculations by the astronauts. All the other calculations were done by massive computers on Earth. Because you could pack a massive computer into a space rocket.
Yeah. And I know it's, the computers at the time were fucking massive and heavy, they'd never take off.
And some of them were bespokely built for NASA.
Yeah. And I know I'm going to cite the Tom Hanks Apollo film as evidence, which...
Apollo 13.
Yeah, I'm going to cite as evidence, which you shouldn't really do in a discussion like this, but there's a bit I loved on that there where Gary Sinise's character has got fluid left back and over and shit starts going wrong, and he climbs in the module, and he's shutting stuff down to make things work.
Like 3 amps.
Yeah, it's not working in we're working like 350 meg downloads of shit and stuff like that. He's working in 3 amps. Like, there's more... That fuse in my toaster is 13 amps. That's 10 times more, 13 times more than they landed Apollo with. You know what I mean? They're not talking massive amounts here. They were on a fucking breadline, and the technology was so low that's what makes it a bigger achievement, I think. At times, like, you got there and back on 3 amps of electricity. And I can't toast a slice of fucking bread on that.
Well, and I know many people use that also as an argument as to why we didn't get there.
Yeah, the technology wasn't good enough to get there.
But it doesn't need to be. Literally, the rocket was just a receiver.
Yeah, it was basically a fucking can of fuel with some people on top, blasted forward, and you can receive a signal.
And they did all the calculations manually on paper.
Even in the Apollo 13 film with Tom Hanks, you see them with a clipboard doing the calculations for oxygen usage and like, these guys weren't just like, people think of astronauts as like, oh, they're test pilots and adrenaline junkies and that's why they got chosen for it. Yeah, because we're fucking nutters. But
they could do maths as well.
Yeah, like these guys,
educated guys.
No one just went, here's this new plane we built, do you want to take it for a spin? Like, these guys poured over the fucking aeronautics of a plane, and then they come back, they fly a plane and come back and go, oh, it's a bit sticky when you hit 2G. they wanted like, no, right, actually we need to take this out, we need to do that. If you do this and this, I reckon I can get 2.5 G out of it. They knew their machines and how to work them. So they were able to do, they didn't need the computing power like we do now. We're spoiled.
Google.
Yeah, we're brained and spoiled with the phones around our pocket and stuff, but they were literally, get these maths right or die. And that wasn't just on the space missions, that was in test pilots, in jet planes and stuff.
Well, the new spacecraft that we're talking about is like, it can get affected by radiation. Electronics can get affected by radiation.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a supercomputer running it, and it's like, well, got to keep it away from radiation. That's the reason why we're talking about it. So I know we're going to have a bit of tangent there, but we'll go.
But it's that thing of like, oh well, we can survive the radiation as humans, but it's the electric. It's that thing in sci-fi movies. We get an EMP pulse and it wipes out New York. It's essentially what they're flying through. Like we've got the amazing computing power now that we can put in a tiny lightweight chip, and it's fantastic. It's the same as 100 Apollo rockets, but it's gonna get fucking fried.
Solar flares, especially and stuff like that. So our satellites with a proper solar flare will be fucked.
Yeah, we see this quite often when we see the sun is about to have a big, was it coronal mass ejection?
Yeah.
And it's like, it could wipe out all the satellites. Did it happen once?
It did some. It fried some foreign networks. 1800s. Yeah.
1800s, it wiped London out or something like that. And it's like, it's happened once, it can happen again. But if it happens this time,
And you're in space in a rocket.
well, not even that. If we're on Earth, if it happens this time, mobile phones, internet, GPS, sat nav, all fucking TV, all goes down because we're so dependent on it. Whereas in 1800s, we didn't have satellites in space and shit.
Well, we've created this new protection, electromagnetic protection based upon the fact that we're using mobile phones and satellites, haven't we?
Yeah.
On the Earth, a brand new one.
Yeah.
Completely man-made, accidental, but it's a brand new reflection, radiation reflector around the Earth.
Yeah.
We completely didn't even know what we were doing.
We didn't know what we were doing. We just accidentally saved ourselves from the sun.
It's like Men in Black 3 created that safety net around the Earth and the aliens.
Well, right, so the next one, which is an interesting one, the moon's surface during the daytime is so hot that camera film would have melted.
Ah, no, that's not true.
So there's no way they could have taken the photos that we've got back because the camera film would have melted.
I'm pretty sure I've got something written here from Kodak directly about the. So, because I've got 15 pages, I haven't got a fucking clue where I've written things down.
Like I said, this is unscripted. So I got this, I set this structure, and I like this Wikipedia article, I'm going to go with this structure. So your notes are all over the place, you have to find out
I
where
haven't
they
got a
are.
fucking clue where they are. But something along the lines of jumbo camera film melts at about 250 degrees Fahrenheit, but Kodak made one that specific of an aspect burns at melts for like 500, and they also created here we are, fucking first page. First page!
Right there! And you even underlined a couple of lines as well.
I am as well. Yeah, so typically 250 degrees Fahrenheit, but the use of special transparency film designed specifically under a NASA contract for hostile environments. It would soften at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, melt at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and also the cameras were protected inside a special case designed to keep them cool, because heat transfer in space without convection or conduction, the only method of heat transfer is radiation, and radioactive heat can be effectively directed away by wrapping it in a material with a reflective surface. So they made the camera reflective because it's only heat comes from radiation, but it can be reflected away, and they made a special film that dissolves and melts at 500 degrees rather than 200.
I've not got about the film, but I've got more or less the same as you is. So there is no atmosphere to efficiently bind lunar surface heat to devices such as cameras that are not in direct contact with it. In a vacuum, only radiation remains as a heat transfer mechanism. The physics of radiative heat transfer are thoroughly understood, and the proper use of passive optical coatings and paints was enough to control the temperature of the film within the cameras. Lunar module temperatures were controlled with similar coatings that gave them a gold colour. Also, while the moon's surface does get very hot at lunar noon, every Apollo landing was made shortly after lunar sunrise at the landing site. The moon's day is about 29.5 Earth days long, meaning that one moon day, dawn to dusk, lasts nearly 15 Earth days. During the longest days, the astronauts did notice increased cooling loads on their spacesuits as the sun and surface temperatures continued to rise, but the effect was easily countered by the passive and active cooling systems. The film was not in direct sunlight, so it was not overheated.
outside of the fact that Kodak said they made a special film.
Yeah. So
That burns at 500, that's at 500 degrees Fahrenheit.
yeah. So and even 250 degrees Fahrenheit, then the astronauts would have been surviving it, would they?
They would, because they've still
The
got-
suit and cooling systems and
yeah, and because and people still have an argument about the cooling systems of the suit, but it's actually very clever. Is the cooling systems of, and they were finding it was freezing. In fact, as soon as it, because this isn't like heat from an oven.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like me sticking you in the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. This is radiation heat. It's
Yeah.
completely different.
Completely different mechanism.
We need to get your brain around the difference.
Well, this is the bit I love with that quote there, where it says, right, the physics of radiative heat transfer are thoroughly understood. We know exactly how this works,
Yeah.
and we plan for it. So yeah, I think we bashed that one out. The Apollo 16 crew could not have survived a big solar flare firing out when they were on the way to the moon. So this is the thing, that a massive solar flare happened while they were on the way to the moon, and it would have killed them. The radiation would have just killed them all instantly. They couldn't have survived it. So that's proof that they never went.
I wrote 2 lines on this somewhere. If I can't see it on the first ways through of these notes, because I've got so fucking many in no particular order.
That's why like, there's so much on this. Why I like this Wikipedia page, just it lays it out nicely.
So I said solar flares were a NASA concern, but typical radiation doses received by the Apollo astronauts due to exposure of solar flares amounted to only a few Rem. The radiation doses claimed by the hoax advocates are exaggerated and unsubstantiated. I can't speak.
There's the beer.
Unsubstantiated. So basically, yes, there were radiation flares. NASA were concerned about them and aware of them, but there would not have been enough rats to kill them.
Right, so that's kind of NASA look at the flares, but this specific theory is that a solar flare happened while Apollo 16 crew were on the way to the moon, and there's no way they could have survived it. Right.
Okay.
The response is, no large solar flare occurred during the flight of Apollo 16. There were large solar flares in August 1972 after Apollo 16 returned to Earth and before the flight of Apollo 17.
Not bad. Don't make shit up.
Yes, there was this big massive solar flare that would have killed them, but none of them were in space at the time. Like Apollo 16 had come back, then there was a massive flare, and then Apollo 17. You just kind of moved the date of the flare.
How does the Mir space station survive the solar flares?
It's beneath the. It's beneath the not the Zeliosphere, but there's some. This is where like there's something where like there's a part where we're in geosynchronous orbit like ISS and Mir.
Yeah.
But well, Mir doesn't exist anymore. It's gone on.
Well, ISS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ISS, it's still protected by the natural barriers that we have.
Is it? Right,
Yeah, and I think it is that thing of like it's below the Van Hallen belt, so I think it's possibly that the Van Hallen belt just soaks it up and absorbs it. So it's like in different types of radiation. So the radiation that would knock out the satellites and plunge into darkness from solar flare is electromagnetic radiation, which won't really affect people. But the type of radiation that kills us, the cosmic radiation, is just kind of gets soaked up in the Van Hallen belt, and that's why it's there.
Fair enough.
No, it's kind of like I don't know if that's why it's there, like some intelligent being put it there to protect us, but
Is it in a dome?
it's what it does. It surrounds us. It's what it does. This is what I've been looking forward to asking you. The flag.
Can we just stop saying something and I just go metal rod?
The flag placed on the surface by the astronauts fluttered despite there being no wind on the moon. This suggests it was filmed on Earth and a breeze caused the flag to flutter. Sibrel said that it may have been caused by indoor fans used to cool the astronauts, since their spacesuit cooling systems would have been too heavy on Earth. Off you go, good sir.
I'll just take a breath. So, it's probably the most ridiculous part of the conspiracy. This, whereas other things try to look at things in science.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys.
This completely ignores science.
All these guys needed to ask was anyone from NASA going, that flag you sent up, Was there anything different about that particular flag than the ones we use on Earth? And I'd say, oh yeah, we're putting a metal rod. So
it's got a foil and then a rod over the top of it.
So it flags it up, and when it waves, it's because you're fucking struggling to get it into the air.
I mean, the reason it has, like, you got a flag and a pole with a flag on it. If you put that in, it just go, because there's no wind to blow it.
And there we go.
So there's a rod over the top of it, so it stands out, proud American flag on the surface of the moon. And he puts it down and rearranges it, and the vibrations of him spiking it in wobble it, and it wobbles. It's not wind blowing it; it's just vibrations. It settles quite quickly.
Yeah, there's no footage I can see that when the astronauts have taken a step away and they're not touching it, but this flag's flying around in the wind.
No.
There isn't one.
Big guy, but you look how whippled it is. It's proof he's blowing. It's proof that it was creased while it was stored on the ship. Like they've just rolled up in a ball and threw it in a corner. You know.
Do you know what? I'm very proud of how reserved I've been with this.
This is just going. Stop it, you fucking idiots!
If they've asked the question rather than just jump into a conclusion, they've got an answer very, very quickly.
Yeah.
It's the thing that frustrates me about that one. But again, the problem is, this is one of those ones where I was like, I fucking knew it was fake years and years ago.
Yeah, years ago. Fuck, it's blowing, and then you sort of go, oh, yeah, I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah. But talk about ones that went, fuck, yeah, this was one that grabbed me for years. And only a few years ago where I went, right. Footprints in the moon dust are unexpectedly well preserved despite the lack of moisture in the lunar soil. So you see that famous image of Niel Armstrong's boot, and it's every ridge is there. It's a perfect footprint.
Yeah.
It can't be done because the moon has no moisture, and you need moisture to bind the soil to form that shape, that mould. So without it, you should just be like if you try putting a footprint in. You put a footprint in mud. I mean, it's got a lot of moisture, so you get a footprint. Try and put a footprint in flour, and you don't really get a footprint because there's no moisture in flour. And that's the argument is that footprint couldn't have been, or any of the footprints couldn't have happened because there's no moisture in the lunar soil.
So, whilst not specifically for the footprints, because this goes into this is one of the reasons for the blast crater as well. But I don't know the answer regarding the footprints, but I think this might work, and I might be completely wrong. So if I am wrong, just tell me to shut the fuck up. But on the moon's surface, it's something called the rocky material is called the lunar regolith, which consists of fine dust particles, glass spheres, large boulders and rocky debris. The lunar regolith has unique properties. The most obvious being that when particles are very jagged, it causes them to interlock. And when subjected to pressure, the regolith will resist and hold like a rock. And in a vacuum, it preserves.
Moon dust, which we'll call the lunar soil, moon dust has not been weathered like Earth sand and therefore has sharp edges. This allows the dust particles to stick together and hold their shape in the vacuum. The astronauts liken it to talcum powder or wet sand. So basically, we need moisture to bind soil and sand together to form a footprint because the weather systems on Earth have just blown sand around it and the grains are blown together and they just grind against each other and round off their edges.
Yeah.
There's none of that ecosystem on the moon. So all these grains of sand and moon dust are sharp, so they'll lock together and stick together. It's the first time they've been disturbed in a millennia.
Yeah. Regolith.
Yeah, it's just not. But that to me, that was one of those things that went, there's no moisture on that footprint can't happen. That is impossible. That's proof it's fake. And then, about a couple of years ago, I learned about the regolith, and when you say like, the moon has not been weathered, you're like, that makes a lot of fucking sense.
It
like,
does, there's absolutely.
How often is the sand blown along a beach? So it's going to be just grind against each other and round off and.
And those dickheads running across it constantly.
Yeah. The alleged moon landings used either a soundstage or were filmed outside in a remote desert, with the astronauts either using harnesses or slow motion photography to make it look like they were on the moon. So this is something I think you mentioned earlier, where speed the footage up to 2 times speed, it looks like they're running on wires or a harness.
Yeah, I want to find specifically the here. So there's an explanation for this phenomena. So I'm going to so this is taken from a website, and I cannot remember what the website's called, but I'm going to read these 2 paragraphs. I think this explains perfectly, in my opinion. So the heading is, if the video footage of the Apollo astronauts is played at double the normal speed, their motion appears normal. Thus the images were faked. And so it says there's an easy explanation for this phenomenon. An object is in free flight will follow a ballistic trajectory in accordance with Newton's laws of motion. The only force acting on the object is gravity, which on Earth has an acceleration of 32.2 feet per square, something or other. On the Moon, gravity is much less, it's only 5.33 feet per square metre. If the ballistic flight of an object on the Moon is sped up by a factor of 2.457, it will mimic exactly the ballistic motion of Earth, and vice versa. The 2 times speed that the hoaxers advocate is very close to this 2.457 ratio, hence the motion looks normal because it's what our eyes and brains are accustomed to seeing. So basically, motion is 2.45 times slower on the Moon. So if you double the speed, it's almost Earth-like because it's what we'd normally be accustomed to seeing. And that's just based upon standard science of Newton's laws of motion.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, to be fair. The explanation here is, while the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon and the scene from movie Apollo 13 use the soundstage and harness setup, it's clearly seen from those films that when dust rose, it did not quickly settle. Some dust briefly formed clouds in the film footage from the Apollo missions. Dust kicked up by the astronauts' boots and the wheels of the lunar roving vehicles rose quite high due to the lower lunar gravity and settled quickly to the ground in an uninterrupted parabolic arc, since there was no air to suspend the dust. Even if there had been a soundstage for the hoax moon landings that had the air pumped out, the dust would have reached nowhere near the height and the trajectory of the Apollo film footage because of Earth's greater gravity.
Also, it was talking about how quickly it settled, so it's not flying around in the atmosphere, which is expected. Like if you drive a car now and the dust flies up, its hangs there for ages. Whereas what you see on the Moon is it spins up and just goes straight back down. It just settles immediately.
There's no air to suspend it, not exactly. To stop it. There's no wind to blow it across. To me that's something you can't recreate on a soundstage either. You'd have to pump out an entire vacuum, and even then there'd be something that lingered in it. So we've done environmental issues then.
Fucking hell. Get in.
Mechanical issues next.
I don't have many notes on this, but let's go.
You do.
I do? Alright, okay.
Number 1.
How do you know?
The Lunar... This is one that's going to come up anyway. I knew this was coming in. The lunar modules made no blast craters or any sign of a dust crater.
You just talked about that though.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. And also there's a little bit extra here where it says at landing the engine thrust divided by the nozzle exit area is only about 10 kPa. Behind that, no, it's not a bit. Basically they used, how the thing is now. Yeah, basically when the lunar module landed, because there's 1/6 of the gravity, we're looking at going, it should create a blast crater as it landed, but we're looking at fighting gravity, whereas there's 1/6 of the gravity, so it wasn't having this plummeting drop, so it could come down. It was literally empty on fuel when it landed. It was just empty and just floating down. It weighed pretty much fuck all, and because of the weight, so it levelled down, so there's no blast crater because there's no, like we just talked with the dust coming up and the air suspending it, there's none of that. The regolith's different because it locks together, it's sharp, and also the weight of it meant that it was so lightweight because it burnt all its fuel off landing that there wasn't much pressure to put on the soil.
And it didn't need much pressure to get onto the Moon to start with.
No.
But we'll talk about the regolith, about how it has this idea of it solidifies with more pressure quite frankly. The more pressure you put on, the tighter it becomes. That because there was only 3,000 pounds of thrust because it was throttled, it simply wasn't enough power to break the regolith. It's been dropped upon, and there's pressure upon it, and that 3,000 pound of thrust without gravity to get it off the surface just wasn't enough to break it.
And there was in fact a blast crater measured under the Apollo 11 lander using shadow lengths of the descent engine bell and estimates of the amount of the landing gear compressed and how deep the lander footpath had pressed into the lunar surface. And it was found that the engine had eroded between 100 and 150 millimetres, between 4 and 6 inches of regolith out from underneath the engine bell during the final descent and landing.
But that's not what people were expecting.
What a big fucking...
And dust everywhere.
Yeah.
And
but also you expect to see this big fucking rocket. Well, when you see rockets land on Earth and they've got these big fucking flames out of them, that's due to the exhaust fumes reacting with oxygen.
And also trying to break gravity.
Trying to break gravity and reacting with the oxygen around. That's why you get the flame, is reacting with oxygen.
Yeah.
There's no oxygen on the moon, so you're not going to see that flame. And also there's 1/6 of the gravity, so it doesn't need
much power.
When you come down from Earth from fucking 100 feet, you fucking smack. The moon, you can just kind of glide your way in, because the gravity is not that strong.
Exactly, there's nothing to pull you down.
You won't really landing it, you won't coming into like beat gravity. When you come down with a thruster to land, you're basically at a controlled descent. You fall and you blast to beat gravity, you fall, blast to beat gravity, fall, blast to beat gravity. That's kind of how you do it. Whereas you're basically just using manoeuvring jets.
Yeah.
Because you're just floating down. And even if you fell, you just kind of just touch the floor, you know.
I think the regolith argument
disproves a lot.
It does, and I think I didn't really know about regolith. Do you know what? I didn't really know about regolith until I was investigating this week.
Yeah, it was this week, but there's a lot of stuff that, going back to it, like, we wouldn't have known about regolith in 69 when this happened, or 76 when it came to life.
No, it was new because you'd never been on the moon before.
Yeah.
So.
But in 76 when this came to Hoax, no one knew what regolith was. In the 90s when we first got told the moon landing was fake, we didn't know what regolith was, no way to research it. It's only because we've got the internet and all that information at our fingers. And also we've got the information at our fingers, but scientists and academics have the internet at their fingers to put that information on.
That's right.
And that's it, that's the only reason why. Kind of keeping with that, the second stage of the launch rocket, or the lunar module ascent stage, made no visible flame as it took off.
Did you just talk about oxygen?
Yeah. It says here, the lunar modules used Erosine-50 fuel and dinitrogen peroxide oxidizer propellants chosen for simplicity and reliability. They ignite hyperlocally upon contact without the need for a spark. These propellants produce a nearly transparent exhaust. The same fuel was used by the core of the American Titan II rocket. The transparency of their plumes is apparent in many launch photos. The plumes of rocket engines fired in a vacuum spread out quickly as they leave the engine nozzle, further lessening their visibility. Finally, rocket engines often run rich to slow internal corrosion. On Earth, the excess fuel burns in contact with the atmospheric oxygen, enhancing the visible flame. This cannot happen in a vacuum. That's basically, on Earth, the exhaust fumes come out, and because the air's so dense, it like fires through the density of the air. There's no air to as density, so they just kind of dissipate as they come out.
That's fine by me.
That's perfectly explainable to me. The lunar modules weighed 17 tons and made no mark on the moon dust, yet footprints can be seen beside them.
Yes. But
Right,
we've talked
so,
about different types of pressure with regolith.
Yeah, it's basically, this is a massive ship that's weight's evenly distributed, and you've got the weight, well, 1/6 of the weight you are on Earth, but it's still, all that weight is put into 2 feet.
So it creates its own pressure.
And also because of the gravity of the moon, you're coming up and coming back down, so you're hitting. You know, if you walk normally and then hop, you're putting more pressure into the ground. To me that's easily explainable.
Well, because we talked about the lander and driving and how regolith works on Mars. I guess it's Mars. On the moon, it's quite unique Because it's not weathered. It explains a lot.
There's some about the cooling systems there, but it gets quite technical and complicated and quite much like how they asked. So let's move on to transmissions.
Okay.
There should have been more than a 2-second delay in communications between the Earth and the Moon at a distance of 250,000 miles.
And I don't know the answer to that because I've always thought that too.
I did, and I don't think this answered quite properly actually. The round-trip light travel time of more than 2 seconds is apparent in all the real-time recordings of the lunar audio, but this does not always appear as expected. There may also be some documentary films where the delay is being edited out. Reasons for the audio may be time constraints or in the interest of clarity.
So they've edited it to be less than 2 seconds, basically.
Yeah. Like in
What
the
about
light.
when it was live?
Yeah, and it's saying they're saying like so 2 seconds is apparent in all the real-time recordings of lunar audio, but this does not always appear as expected. That doesn't explain it.
So someone goes, buzz, and he goes, 5 seconds, 10. Hello, just got your message, hello, scenario.
Yeah.
But other times it's like within 2 seconds. So there's.
But radio waves travel at the same speed in a vacuum. They're controlled conditions.
Yeah.
The radio wave aren't going to suddenly speed up to 2 seconds and go to 1 second and then.
So this was one of the things alongside a couple of others for where I couldn't explain. I'm glad that you can't either, really. Cause
Yeah.
I don't really. If any of you guys really know the answer to this, put it in the comments because I don't really know why.
Yeah, and it's just that line, but this does not always appear as expected. Well, radio waves don't speed up and slow down.
They just travel.
And I can understand, we get some, when you get news, live news reports, and you get delays, and sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's slower. Well, yeah, there's all sorts of fucking signals flying about the Earth, and interference, and you're near an electric plant, you're using Wi-Fi that everybody's diving on, or what. There's something, but you're in space, there's no else.
The thing they're talking about there, though, the thing that I'll probably come on to later about other things, is talking about editing.
Yeah.
Probably edited.
No, but it says 2 seconds is apparent in all the real-time recording of the lunar audio, but this does not always appear as expected.
But it talks about editing in the minute.
And then it says there may also be documentary films where the delay is being edited out. So, well, they're saying in documentary films they've edited the delay out, but in the live footage,
Right.
there's a 2 second delay, but it don't always appear as expected. And it's like, well, radio waves don't speed up or slow down in a vacuum.
Unless it's some form of interference, I don't really understand. But
Yeah. Typical delays in communications were about 0.5 seconds.
it's travelling. What is the speed of? What's the speed of sound? Or radio? How fast is a radio?
I couldn't tell you to be honest. But this just says here, claims that the delays were only half a second are untrue, as examination of the original recording shows. Also, there should not be a consistent time delay between every response, as the conversation is being recorded at one end, mission control. Responses from mission control could be heard without any delay, as the recording is being made at the same time that Houston receives a transmission from the moon. So people are going, oh, there's only half a second between them talking. Like, no, there's not half a second between them answering. So it's basically going, you're opening space, I'm at ground control.
Right, yeah.
You send a message to me, it takes 2 seconds to get to me. And I respond immediately to it, and then it takes 2 seconds to get out to you. But all you're seeing on the footage
It's 0.5 seconds.
is 0.5 seconds where I'm receiving your message and answering back to it. That 0.5 seconds is at either end.
Yeah.
If you send a message, you wait 5 seconds, I answer, you answer back, wait 5 seconds.
Yeah.
To me, that's bullshit. Like, we're only half a second, proves I want there. You just saw someone replying to a message. You're not going to get the message, wait 5 seconds, then respond to it. You respond to it immediately.
Because you don't see both sides of it at the same time. Yeah.
You're just seeing you receiving it and answering it.
That makes sense.
The Parkes Observatory in Australia was built to the world for weeks as the site would be relaying communications from the first moonwalk. However, 5 hours before transmission, they were told to stand down.
I heard that too.
What are your thoughts on that?
They were built for transmission. Didn't they have loads of problems? Well, I'm sure there was a movie saying they had loads of problems before they went live, but then they genuinely did deal with the communication.
They covered most of it, almost the entire moonwalk.
But there were certain things they didn't use that they didn't cover.
Yeah, they were told to stand down 5 hours before, simply because the timing of the first moonwalk was changed after the landing.
Right, okay.
So it was from landing. Most people think, we landed. Neil Armstrong and Buzz landed and then got out and walked on the moon. Actually, when they landed, it's 6 hours from landing to getting out onto the moon.
Alright, fine.
They had a lot of checks to do and other things to do. And it was 6 hours before landing and then walking on the moon. So remember, that's supposed to be 4 hours and then 6 hours, but it was like, yeah, they're built to cover it, but we've landed on the moon, we're checking all this stuff and whatnot, we're going to walk out 2 hours later, we don't know if we can cover that. Right, we need to find someone else to, and then, actually they did cover most of the moonwalk. I think they just missed the beginning of it, I think, on the first bit of it.
I was going to say, because there'd be no reason why the show still shouldn't do it though.
Yeah, but the conspiracy is that, they got told to shut down because they weren't on the moon and someone were going to figure out that they weren't on the moon.
They were tracked all the way to the moon.
But we're tracked all the way there and back.
Yeah.
There's a bit about some missing data.
Okay.
Blueprints and design and development drawings of the machines involved are missing.
In the same way that half the tapes have been taped over. Yeah.
Apollo 11 data tapes containing telemetry and high quality video before scan conversion from slow scan TV to standard TV at the first moonwalk are also missing. Dr. David R. Williams, NASA archivist at Goddard Space Flight Center, and Apollo 11 flight director Eugene F. Kranz both acknowledge that the original high quality Apollo 11 telemetry data tapes are missing. Conspiracists see this as evidence that they never existed. The Apollo 11 telemetry tapes were different from the telemetry tapes of the other moon landings because they contained a raw television broadcast. For technical reasons, the Apollo 11 lander carried a slow scan television camera. To broadcast these pictures to radio television, a scan conversion had to be done. The radio telescope at Parkes Observatory in Australia was able to receive the telemetry from the moon at the time of the Apollo 11 moonwalk. Parkes had a bigger antenna than NASA's antenna in Australia at the Honeysuckle Creek tracking station, so it received a better picture. It also received a better picture than NASA antenna at Goldstone Deep Space Communication Complex. This direct TV signal, along with telemetry data, was recorded onto 1-inch 14-track analogue tape at Parkes. The original SSTV transmission had better detail and contrast in the scan-converted pictures, and it is this original tape that is missing. A crude, real-time scan conversion of the SSTV signal was done in Australia before it was broadcast worldwide. However, still photos of the original SSTV image are available. About 15 minutes were filmed by an amateur 8mm film camera, and these are also available. Later Apollo missions did not use SSTV. At least some of the telemetry tapes from the ALEuminati scientific experiments left on the moon, which ran to 1977, still exist. According to Dr. Williams, a copy of those tapes have been found.
So basically there's better quality pictures somewhere else and use that and just get rid of the originals.
Yeah, we don't know where the originals are.
Because we've got better quality somewhere else.
Well, no, basically we lost the originals. They don't know where, NASA don't know where it is. So they went digging through this the telescope at Parkes, and they went, turns out we have a copy of it. Brilliant, can we have a copy of that copy, please? So the original broadcast does not exist anywhere.
For me, this is where it stinks a bit.
Yeah.
So, even though I've been able to go through most of this so far myself, the same way as you would disprove, there's a couple of things that still stick out a bit which I can't digest very well. And this is one of them. You accidentally lose some of these.
The original footage of the greatest human endeavour.
Oh, I've lost it. And also, they said some of the other original footage tapes that they had the taped over.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys. Like, I get it. You know, you're busy guys. It's not like you've accidentally taped over your wedding photo and you're over your test run and gone, oh shit. I hope the wife don't find out.
Why is this?
They said they're running out of tape and they needed to use some tape. Or some of the other so they reused it.
Yeah, but
that was their explanation. But go buy some more.
Yeah, shouldn't there be something going into the Smithsonian? Shouldn't there be something that's held like?
And that for me is what stinks.
This stinks. I mean,
that stinks.
We've got a little bit more here. They found that the Apollo 11 tapes were sent for storage at the US National Archives in 1970. But by 1984, all the Apollo 11 tapes had been returned to the Goddard Space Flight Center at their request. The tapes are believed to have been stored rather than reused. Goddard was storing 35,000 new tapes per year in 1967, even before the moon landings. In November 2006, Cosmos Online reported that about 100 data tapes recorded in Australia during the Apollo 11 mission had been found in a small marine science laboratory in the main physics building at the Curtin University of Technology in Perth. One of the old tapes had been sent to NASA for analysis. The slow scan images were not on the tape. In July 2009, NASA indicated that it must have erased the original Apollo 11 moon footage years ago so it could reuse the tape. In December 2009, NASA issued a final report on the Apollo 11 telemetry tapes. Senior engineer Dick Nasker, who was in charge of the live TV recordings during the Apollo missions, was put in charge of the restoration project. After a 3-year search, the inescapable conclusion was that about 45 tapes of Apollo 11 video were erased and reused. In time for the 40th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing, Lowry Digital had been tasked with restoring the surviving footage. Lowry Digital President Mike Inchelack said that this is by far and away the lowest quality video the company has dealt with. NASA praised Lowry for restoring crispness to the Apollo video, which will remain in black and white and contains conservative digital enhancements. The $230,000 restoration project took months to complete and did not include sound quality improvements. Some selections of the restored footage in high definition have been available on the NASA website. So what they're saying is, we taped over it.
What?
But someone taped it using 8mm, filmed their TV using an 8mm camera, and we found these other tapes in Australia, in Perth. So we paid $230,000 a sent to this digital company, and they managed to restore some footage and use some conservative digital enhancements. And this is where people go, well, that's fake footage, isn't it? What are these conservative digital enhancements? How have you... The original footage doesn't exist. All we've got is a fabricated tape. And how could you have something of such importance to mankind and it not being a safe somewhere in the fucking Smithsonian or something?
And this is where this for me, there's parts of this where I can go through it quite comfortably and go, scientifically can be explained, but this stinks. There's some video footage which is obviously faked.
Yeah.
That I can see. There's a couple of things where you see an astronaut fall on the face of the moon, flat on his face, and then just suddenly just appears on his feet as if just been like a magic hand just picked him up. And you look at that. I mean, I've never been on the moon, and I don't know what a sixth of the Earth's gravity feels like or looks like, but that looks dodgy as fuck.
That looks like he's been pulled up by his harness.
Yeah, and there's other things where you can comfortably see the Earth through the visor of the shuttle when they're meant to have been 4 days away and it should not have been that big, and there's clearly video manipulation happening.
And that's our history of this. So like the Mars rover missions, when they sent footage back of that, we saw it on the news. It was this like
And the filter,
rich red, and it's like actually it's just a boring, shitty brown colour. But they manipulate because people think Mars is the red planet, so they digitally enhance the footage for what. Don't give me what I expect to see. Give me what it looks like.
Yeah, please, because that'd be more helpful. In the same way that when the satellites are flying around the Earth, the marble that we see is a composite image of hundreds of other images that a satellite's taken constantly around the Earth and stick all together, which is why sometimes you see the same
cloud squared and the same cloud pattern a few times.
So NASA, I've got a history of doing this sort of thing. It doesn't help that they've been caught out manipulating video footage on their missions, and it doesn't help that there's certain things on the moon which don't look right, for which it doesn't mean that the moon landings were fake, but they've definitely tampered something. They've definitely done some tampering. As you said there, they've definitely enhanced certain things.
Well, they spent $230,000 in 2009 to tamper. They openly admit, we spent $230,000 to make these digital. And there's only some. Don't worry though. There's only some conservative digital enhancements. Why is there any digital enhancements? Like, where's the original footage? And
the only thing is it a language issue here? Is it a case of it's so poor that they've had to do a lot of digital overlays to make it so it's even visible? I mean, is rather than adding things to it, is it just a case of?
I don't know, but even then, I wouldn't want it, Chris. I want to see it exactly. And you're telling me that when it came to retape over it, someone just went, the Apollo 11 moonlight, like tape over tape 6. Apollo 11 moonlight, are you sure we should be taping over this? Yeah, no one's going to want it, it's fine. Okay. Would you like, what the fuck is this even, why is this not in a museum?
Exactly. It stinks, doesn't it? It doesn't sit right, doesn't this?
And when you have, it's like, it's your crowning moment, your crowning when you have like fucking 100 copies of that original tape.
You'd think so.
But there's no copy because all the TV stations, you got all the TV stations showed it. Yeah, but they didn't have a copy of it. They only broadcast a live feed. There was only one live feed, it was only recorded in one place. So by NASA, and they taped over the tape, so there's no original copy of the moon landing.
So we can tell why the conspiracy can run amok here.
Because it fucking stinks.
It does, as a prosperity reason, you should be keeping it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the tape doesn't exist anymore gives credence to, well, they're hiding something.
Yeah. What was on that tape that you had to delete?
100%.
You know.
And they can't. And then, so what we're now being told to believe is, this is just multiple levels of human error.
Yeah, this is just, it's just humans are idiots.
Well, and we are.
We are.
But I don't know, if I saw the Apollo 11 tape, I'm not particularly willing to tape over this. Realistically, NASA should have a couple of extra VHS tapes stored in the back somewhere, but I don't know, it just... But we can move on.
And it's not like today either, where you go, well, why didn't everybody in the home tape it? Nobody had VHS recorders in fucking 1969.
They didn't exist, did they?
They didn't exist, so even the stations didn't record it. It was just a live feed. They were just patching into a live feed and transmitting on their network, that was it. Like, so no one actually had a physical copy of the moon landing except NASA, and they've taped over it. Because, we need to reuse the tape. Buy another fucking tape!
Exactly, it's not difficult. They could really run out of that much money.
Even if you run out of that much fucking money, you just walk up to the centre and go, look, I need $200 for a new tape. No, use your old tape, you can reuse them. We've only got one left to reuse and it's the moon landing. Do you know what, here, take $200 out of my pocket, go buy a fucking tape. I'll buy that tape for $200, cheers,
Or in a worse way, I suppose. Or alternatively, just go into the NASA office and go, right then, where's Bob? Who's Bob? The cleaner! Bob! Where are you, Bob? Sorry mate, I need to buy a tape, you're fired. Yeah.
We need to buy some new tape. Sorry Bob, you're fired. We need new tape.
I might bring you back in 3 months.
It's either you get fired or we delete the moon landings, and sorry pal, you can get another cleaning job. We can't get another moon landing.
No, so this for me just is stinky.
I think there's more on that page. I know if you're reading along with, there's more on that page. I've just skipped over a load of it because it's like the Saturn V blueprints only exist on microfilm. There's no blueprint for the rocket anywhere and stuff like that. I mean, we kind of get bogged down in technicals, and I think
we can't cover everything.
We can't cover everything, and I think I'm feeling the energy's getting a little bit flat here, so I'm gonna bring it up a little bit.
Well, I don't think the energy's getting flat. It's a case of
we're getting quite long.
It's long, but also everything so far has been relatively explainable. There's nothing really here that's gone here to gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get on to Stanley Kubrick.
Wonderful.
Filmmaker Stanley Kubrick, who was a fucking genius, by the way, like you needed telling.
I wasn't happy with him for The Shining.
Were you not?
No. Well, as a standalone movie, what a wonderful movie. It's not the book. Nothing like the book.
It's not like the book, it's a fantastic movie.
It's a great movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Not personal.
No. I'm just remembering about Stanley Kubrick now, about the NASA T-shirt and the movie and all that.
Yeah, the carpet on The Shining, that's the Apollo pattern.
And he's trying to
let people know that he's going into like Beatles territory, Death Clues in it.
Yes.
But filmmaker Stanley Kubrick is accused of having produced more of the footage. Filmmaker Stanley Kubrick is accused of having produced much of the footage for Apollos 11 and 12. Presumably because he had just directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is partly set on the moon and featured advanced special effects. It has been claimed that when 2001 was in post-production in early 1968, NASA secretly approached Kubrick to direct the first 3 moon landings. The launch and splashdown would be real, but the spacecraft would stay in Earth orbit and fake footage broadcasters live from the moon. No evidence was offered for this theory, which overlooks many facts. For example, 2001 was released before the first Apollo landing, and Kubrick's depiction of the moon's surface differs greatly from its appearance in the Apollo footage. The movement of the character on the moon in 2001 differs from that of the film movement of the Apollo astronauts, and does not resemble an environment with 1/6 of the gravity of Earth. Several scenes in 2001 showed dust ballooning as the spacecraft landed, something that would not have happened in a vacuum, we've already discussed. Kubrick did hire Frederick Ordway and Harry Lange, both of whom had worked for NASA and major aerospace contractors, to work with him on 2001. Kubrick also used some 50mm f.07 lenses that were left over from a batch made by Zeiss for NASA. However, Kubrick only got this lens for Barry Lyndon. The lens was originally a still photo lens and needed change to be used for motion filming.
Okay, so what you're telling me now is no, he couldn't do it.
So the theory is that he filmed it, and the astronauts went up. The takeoff was real, the landing was real, but they stayed in orbit, and Kubrick filmed the landings.
Again, I'll say this to you as well. This was completely tracked by the Russians, all the way. It was tracked by the Australians.
Mm-hmm.
Any deviation of going to the moon and taking off from the moon, I'm absolutely certain the Russians will go, I'm about to piss in your cornflakes. This is not the greatest feat of mankind, because you're a set of cheaters.
Yeah.
So, additionally, there's absolutely zero evidence. Stanley Kubrick's never come forward and said he did it. There's no like cutting room floor footage disappeared from what you see on any movie. Like there's no extra cuttings or anything that's being found. There's nothing that suggests that Stanley Kubrick had anything to do with it, other than the fact they're linking him to the movie previously made, 2001: Space Odyssey.
Because I think it was the first person that filmed the moon landing. And if they're going to be fake, they'd be Stanley Kubrick that'd fake it.
Yeah, but as I said though, it's subtly different from the reality of the physics that we saw on the moon.
And then I think people have gone like down the Beatles' Death Cruise route, where they look at the carpet in the hotel in The Shining, look at this and look at that,
and the NASA rocket T-shirt and
he's just trying to tell people what he did without telling them, and it's like.
Or alternatively, why would you do it? Just on his deathbed, surely go, I faked it.
I think the moon landings, yeah. There's a great quote I've got here. I don't know who it belongs to, but it just says, Stanley Kubrick could have been asked to fake the moon landings.
He would have been technically good enough to do it.
But as he was such a perfectionist, he would have insisted shooting it on location. And it's well documented he didn't like to fly, so that wraps that one up.
I'll film it as long as I'm on the moon.
Well, no, he perfectionist, he'd insist on filming on location, but it's very well documented he didn't like to fly, so you wouldn't have been able to get him to the moon to film it on location. So that proves he didn't do it. So we've talked quite a lot there about the evidence, and I think this is going on quite long, so I think we're going to wrap up because we can't cover everything in this.
And it will, even though we started recording during the day.
It's still at night now.
It's still pitch black.
So first one we want to is we've talked a lot throughout all the evidence of technical and technical limitations and technical explanations. So, scientific and technical explanations. So, you can't have the moon footprint without moisture. Well, actually, it's regolith and some of these is just. This one infuriates me. It's the Hubble Space Telescope.
Okay.
Right. This gets me fucking angry. There's bits where I've gone. That footprint did me for years until I recently learned about regolith, and then this to me this is on par with a fucking flag, because you just understand how shit works. Right? So moon landing conspiracists claim that observatories and the Hubble Space Telescope should be able to photograph the landing sites. This implies that the world's major observatories, as well as the Hubble program, are complicit in the hoax by refusing to take photos of the landing site.
With the Hubble telescope?
Yeah.
Hey, what? Imagine the pixelation. It'd be smaller than a pixel from the Hubble telescope. You wouldn't be able to get it into view.
This is... we've got this massive telescope in space. Why can't you point at the moon and show us the landing site? Because it takes photos of galaxies 15 billion light years away.
It cannot take something that close. It simply
No,
can't.
it's like, well, the moon's 250,000 miles away, so why can't you photograph it? Because it's too fucking clear. It's like you put your finger in front of your camera and going, why didn't that picture come out clear?
Imagine taking, it can see the moon, but you're asking it to then go from the moon to zoom in to something that is probably as big as this kitchen.
Yeah.
From a telescope that's built to look at something so far, it doesn't have the ability to go, I can narrow my field down to something less than the size of a pixel.
Mm-hmm.
It can't do it. You just it wouldn't work.
Just to completely back you up here, fella, photos of the moon have been taken by Hubble, including at least 2 Apollo landing sites. But the Hubble resolution limits viewing of lunar objects to sizes no smaller than 55 to 69 metres, which is insufficient resolution to see any landing site features. So the smallest object it can see is 55 to 69 metres. The lunar lander is not that big.
big fucking lander. It's the whole family's out there on that thing. It's not too big. Yeah.
Why can't the Hubble take a picture of the flag on the moon? Because you're a fucking idiot and don't understand how the Hubble works. Like, if you want to throw down and talk about conspiracy theories and landing, fine, that's fine. We love conspiracy. Why we do this channel, why we talk about these debates. But know how fucking shit works. Don't just go, point the Hubble. Yeah, you can't point the Hubble at the moon, can you?
No, you can't.
Honestly, you can't. You're right, you can't. But we have, because of dickheads like you, we've done it, and you know what? You can't see shit, because the lunar module is not 69 fucking metres long.
Do you know how you got off there? It's how I wanted to go for the flag, but I restrained.
I did not. And I do not apologise. Like, just...
Normally you go fishing, I bite and I go bonkers.
I set myself up for this. I saw it next and went, oh, don't get angry, don't get angry, don't get angry. And I got fucking angry.
But what was it that there has been one that's a satellite that can go around, and they have definitely took a picture.
So I'm just trying to cut through my notes here now, because there's a lot. I've got a lot here that have done it and taken pictures and like, oh, there's a shadow, that's the lunar lander and stuff like that.
But there's definitely one that's been taken.
The Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency launched their ALEuminati Moon orbiter on September 4, 2007 from Tanegashima Space Center. Selene orbited the moon at about 100 kilometers, 62 miles altitude in May 2008. JAGA reported detecting the halo generated by the Apollo 15 lunar module engine exhaust from a terrain camera image. A 3-dimensional reconstructed photo also matches terrain of an Apollo 15 photo taken from the surface. On July 17, 2009, NASA released low-resolution engineering test photos of the Apollo 11, 14, 15, 16, 17 landing sites that have been photographed by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter as part of the process of starting its primary mission. The photos show the descent stage of the landers from each mission on the moon's surface. The photo of Apollo 14 landing site also shows tracks made by an astronaut between a science experiment and the lander. Photos of the Apollo 12 landing site were released by NASA on September 3, 2009. The injected lander descent stage, experiment package, Surveyor 3 spacecraft and astronaut footprints are all visible. While the LRO images have been enjoyed by the scientific community as a whole, they have not done anything to convince conspiracy theorists that the landings happened.
They're all fake, that's why.
It's NASA to fake them, right? So, this is NASA, the only images we've got are NASA because we won't send the Hubble to look at it, because it fucking can't. And then, we've now got the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and we've taken photos of it, and here they are. Yeah, it's NASA that did that. They're fake, you can't trust them. Of course they're going to put quite a job.
So what's the Chinese then?
So September the 1st, 2009, India's lunar mission, Chandrayaan-1, took photos of the Apollo 15 landing site and tracks of the lunar rovers. The Indian Space Research Organisation launched their uncrewed lunar probe on September 8, 2008 from Satish Dhawan Space Center. The photos were taken by a hyperspectral camera fitted as part of the mission's image payload. China's second lunar probe, Shan 2, which was launched in 2010, can photograph the lunar surface with a resolution of up to 1.3 metres. It spotted traces of the Apollo landings. So there we've got, well, NASA have gone, no, we can't turn the Hubble on it. You're a fucking idiot if you think we can. That's not how the Hubble works. But we've got this lunar reconnaissance orbiter. It's booting up for its primary mission in a couple of days. So while it's booting up, we can take some low-res images as we pass over. There we go. You can see everything, and we've gone. That's NASA. They're going to put it out. So India and China have taken photos of the Apollo 15 landing site.
They're all in NASA's pocket, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoever it was that hid Paul McCartney's body from the MI5 is covering this up.
You know, China is paying professors in universities to push communism in universities in America to undermine American society, and they fund it. They've got Trump, they've got Biden blackmail, so they own America, and they're doing all this insidious shit. But they took photos to back up America landing on the moon.
Yeah.
But they just go, we flew over, couldn't see it. And that's good. But it's that we took photos of it then. We took photos of it, it's not that. That's 100 miles of it, that's exactly where it was.
And we saw a Chinese flag and an American flag.
Yeah. You know, why would China, who fucking hate America, in a massive trade and political wars with them, back them up on this?
Well, they wouldn't.
And India have got no skin in game either. And another thing I want to get on to, I'm going to move on from that before I get too angry, is we can argue today about digitally enhanced images. That I could take one of those NASA photos, and I've free software available on the internet, so I could digitally enhance them and change them and stuff. So we can't really trust anything that comes out now.
There was one, I'm pretty sure, it was the fakest video footage I've ever seen from NASA of the dark side of the moon, where you saw the moon passing in front of the Earth, supposedly showing the dark side of the moon, and it just looked like a cartoon.
Yeah.
It was fucking awful, and that was not real.
But it's not so much, even the fact me and you and anybody watching has these digital manipulation software at their fingertips, readily available for free most of the time online. So they can create, so anything NASA brings out,
we can recreate if we want.
We can recreate one, or we can accuse them of digital.
Yeah.
The fact they've been caught out multiple times digitally enhancing photos, like with Mars, the digitally made it, turned the contrast up, made it red for no reason at all and stuff. So there's nothing, video footage, pictures, there's no that can come out as proof.
Correct.
But there is one thing that we've got from 1969 and all the Apollo missions that prove 100% that we've been there.
Two things actually.
Go on.
Moon rocks and reflectors.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say the argument reflectors that they could have been put there by an unmanned drone.
Well, I'll give you an argument that after. We'll do moon rock.
But moon rocks, we have moon rocks. And we've studied them geologically, and there's no way they could have been found on Earth. To the point some people have said, oh well, it could be lunar meteorites that NASA mined.
Too many tons of it, surely.
Right.
Tons and tons of stuff.
I think I've got here. The Apollo missions gathered 380 kilos, that's 840 pounds, of moon rocks. The Soviet Lunar 16, Lunar 20 and Lunar 24 robots gathered only 11.5 ounces, 326 grams. Combined, that is less than 1,000th much. Indeed, current plans for a Martian sample return would only gather about 500 grams, 18 ounces of soil. Right? And the recently proposed South Pole Aitken Basin robot mission would only gather about 1 kilo, 2.2 pound of moon rock. If NASA used similar robot technology, then between 300 and 2,000 robot missions would have been needed to collect the current amount of moon rocks that is held by NASA. Right. And I think somewhere else about I think if we've got moon rocks, I've got it in there somewhere. They collected 838 pounds of moon rocks from the moon, and then I think it was only something like all of the lunar meteorites adds up to about 16 pounds.
Yeah, so nonsense.
To me, this breaks out quite easily. we could only got them from. There's not enough lunar meteorites on the Earth to get this much moon rock. We could only get them. You go, well, what about unmanned missions? Doesn't say there's a man had been to Mars to get them. Well, at the rate we've got, Russians have had robots there, and we've got the best robots going to Mars today. And we could only. It takes between 300 and 2,000 robot missions to get that much moon rock back to Earth.
That's pretty damning, really.
That's pretty damning, isn't it? That's like, yeah, well, we didn't go to the moon. Rock. Explain all this is here.
And not to mention that, even if it was an unmanned thing to the moon. So, I understand that when the military is involved and they're making planes and secret planes in like Area 51 or wherever else it is, and they've got all these black budgets that hide underneath, and that's militarised, and that becomes like this big military complex. They rarely have to go to NASA or anything. To go, we're going to create this new mission. We're going to have to find a launch which no one can track.
Yeah.
We're going to have to create an orbiter which can't be tracked by anybody else outside.
While Russia are watching you constantly.
Yeah.
Like, maybe today you might get away with it unlaunched, possibly. But back in 69, 70, Russia were watching everything you did.
So you'd have to launch a rocket at a massive expense. You'd have to then find the money to create this other mission outside of the Mars, outside of the mission to the moon with the people.
But while your budget's being slashed,
Yeah.
50% by 50% every year.
You have to launch it to the moon, untracked.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we're talking conspiracy, then you've got what are we launching this for with all these people? Well, actually, I can't tell you what you're building or why you're building it, but you're going to need to build this and not ask me any questions. Then
That's
guys,
when people talk.
yeah, rather than I built something for that rocket which is going out. Then people. Yeah, so you'd have. So
If you're going to hide the conspiracy, like we said earlier at the beginning, 400,000 people involved in launching Niel Armstrong to the moon. Hide the conspiracy in plain sight. That guy who built the washers and the seals for the rocket is going, I built that. Have you seen that? I built that. Isn't that fucking brilliant? And then he's reinforcing your narrative. Don't go, you're building this, but I can't tell you what it's for. Well, I don't know what to test it for, how to stress test it for it needs to be, what environment is going, can't tell you, not like that. Do you know what, I've been down at background, do you know what, I've been working on something fucking dodgy. I don't know what's going on here, but it's weird. That guy's going to talk, whereas, they're going to go, see that rocket went up, I did that would be, you're hiding the conspiracy in plain sight.
I mean, you put it better than me anyway. The amount of missions that have been needed to be taken to get the amount of moon rock we've got on Earth would be ridiculous. Be astronomical, really. Up to 2,000 missions.
Yeah, between 300 and 2,000 missions, robot missions have been needed to bring it back. So humans work better than machines.
In some instances.
Yeah, we can gather rocks a lot quicker than a fucking rover can.
That's the Neanderthal, they could do it.
So yeah, to me, it just kind of go, we didn't land on the moon. Moon rocks. That they had geological, physical proof, like, that photo could be digitally enhanced, that video could be tampered with. This fucking rock can't. The geological makeup of this rock cannot be tampered with.
But as I said as well, forget that, we've got the reflectors. 3 missions put reflectors on there for which we measure the distance of the Earth between the moon within an inch.
This was my next thing. Aside from NASA, a number of groups and individuals tracked the Apollo missions. It's not just NASA, like people watched it go up and tracked it.
Yeah.
Right? On later missions, NASA released information to the public explaining where and when the spacecraft could be sighted. They're not even hiding the going, if you want to track it, it'll be here, mate. Look at this point in the sky at this time. Right? Their flight paths were tracked using radar, and they were sighted and photographed using telescopes. Also, radio transmissions between the astronauts on the surface and in orbit were independently recorded. The presence of retroreflectors, mirrors used as targets for Earth-based tracking lasers, from the Laser Ranging Reflector experiment, is evidence that there were landings. Lick Observatory attempted to detect from Apollo 11's retroreflector while Armstrong and Aldrin were on the moon, but did not succeed until August 1st, 1969. Apollo 14 astronauts deployed a retroreflector on February 5th, 1971, and McDonald Observatory detected it the same day. The Apollo 15 reflector was deployed on July 31st, 1971, and was detected by the McDonald Observatory within a few days. Smaller retroreflectors were also put on the moon by the Russians. They were attached to uncrewed lunar rovers, Lunar and Lunar 2. So the retroreflectors, we put some on in the landings and we tracked them in there to prove that we've been there. We also hit the Russian ones and they were unmanned. So the retroreflectors don't do all for me.
Yeah, but the unmanned missions were tracked though, I assume.
Yeah, but you're tracking the ship going there. And NASA going, oh, look at this ship, it's going this way, look at this time and that place. That's where it is. You can track it all the way there, and we're going to put a reflector on the moon, and then you can hit it with a laser. See, we were at the moon. Well, Russia just because you're tracking a ship doesn't mean there's somebody on it.
Yeah, but
And Russia put reflectors on the moon that were unmanned missions. So the reflectors have been put there unmanned.
they could, but who's ever come out and said we saw an unmanned mission from the United States or anyone else going to the moon that we don't know was registered? So to put those reflectors on there outside of the moon
let's
mission,
say Apollo 15 manned mission to the moon. We're going to walk on the moon, right? We put reflector on the moon so it's proof we were there. Well, that rocket, we've seen the rocket go up, the crew could have gone into orbit, the rocket carried on, and an unmanned lander put the reflector there. And then the crew come back down to Earth.
yeah.
No, you're tracking every bit of it, but there's nothing to say that was manned. And the fact that the Russians have put unmanned reflectors on the moon said that you don't need people to put them there.
I'm just asking you the question. Show me some evidence of where anyone's ever tracked anything leaving Earth, going to the moon, outside of the Apollos, or outside of anything that's been registered to be going to the moon. A single mission that's been tracked by anybody that is not on register.
No, I'm not saying a separate mission. I'm saying
Well,
NASA going.
a secret mission to land.
No, well that's because NASA
Well,
going. Here's Apollo 15, a manned crew going to the moon to put this, and they're going to put a reflector in there so you know they've been there. So you see the Apollo 15 rocket take off. You see it going to orbit. The crew just going to orbit around the Earth. The rocket's unmanned, so you're still tracking the same rocket.
But that's not true because they brought back rocks as well.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying for the reflector side, the reflectors could have been put there unmanned.
Well, no, but they went
Right.
with manned missions.
I know, but I know that the rocks disprove my argument. What I'm saying is the reflectors could have been put there unmanned, right?
And I'm trying to say to you,
The rocks prove that we were there.
but the reflectors themselves couldn't have been done without a manned mission, only because the Russian missions were tracked,
Yeah, the unmanned mushroom
the
mission.
American missions were tracked, and no one's ever gone, I see something going to the moon from Earth, and I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I mean,
So it has to be on a mission that everyone knows exists.
yeah. The moon rocks kind of argument. I was trying to argue that the reflectors don't prove we've been there. The reflectors could be put there unmanned.
They can be, but the American reflectors, they're saying.
But the fact we brought moon rocks back, and the amount of moon rocks we brought back says we were there.
I think it's a moot point, really.
If Apollo 15 didn't bring moon rocks back, I don't know if Apollo 15 brought moon rocks, but if they didn't
All
bring,
of them,
the other, right? So if they hadn't have brought a substantial amount of moon rocks back, then there's no proof that that was a manned mission that put the reflectors there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like the reflectors don't prove man walked on the moon for me.
Not on their own, I suppose.
You know, the fact the moon rocks that we brought back do, and all the other stuff we've debunked does. But yeah, the argument that we've been on the moon, look, this reflector, you can shine a laser, it bounces back, that proves we were there. Proves we sent some of there. Doesn't prove a man actually put it down there. To me, but
I get it. Yeah.
but that's the point I was trying to make. I know I'm arguing against myself. I'm going, the moon rocks prove we did, but I was trying to make the point that if Apollo 15 did bring rocks back, then that doesn't prove we landed. Right? There's a lot more I could go on, but I'm going to end it there.
Fucking
And
hell.
see what you've got left, because we're going on quite a while here. So is there anything else you want to bring up?
Just
Because I think we've covered this quite in depth, to be honest. I don't think you find many videos on YouTube that go this deep onto the moon landing conspiracy.
impossible to talk as much shit as those. There's not a huge amount because I think we can probably get around it, but I just want to just explain a little bit about
Like I
this.
said, there's a lot more there I could go through, and I'll put the link in the description, so the bits I've missed out, you can read and look at yourself. I just skipped over some of them, but
Well, do you know what? I don't know if we can be bothered now.
if there's anything you want to bring up,
It was just we were just going to talk about why the video quality was so bad. Because the idea was that the video quality was so poor that the moon landing was obviously faked, but the only way they could make people believe it is if they create such poor quality videos. But it was one of the things is the Apollo 11 television camera was black and white, slow scan TV with a scan rate of 10 frames per second at 320 lines per frame. But broadcast images in the world were 60 frames per second and 525 lines per frame, so completely different.
well, this is what we kind of touched on this earlier when we were about the Parkes antenna in Australia, where they had to get the footage in and then convert it to be broadcast.
Well, they basically they got the broadcast in, but they had to video record the broadcast onto a different video to
broadcast it out.
And he got loads of dodgy artifacts and stuff on screen going around. But
you get like ghost images and stuff.
Exactly. And that's why it was shit.
Yeah.
There was no direct feed.
I mean, the argument is, they made it shot on purpose so that they could hide discrepancies and hide shit. And it's like, no, it would just. Do you know why it was shit? Because the technology was.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Do you know what, mate? I have got reams and pages of other stuff, but these are quite small, minutiae, little things that are quite intricate that you could possibly bring into a diplomatic conversation. But do you know what? The big shit has been dealt with and talked about.
Well, this is the stuff I've skipped over. Is like we could talk for another 2-3 hours about this, but the stuff I've skipped, I don't think adds to the conversation.
I think you're right. I mean, there's going to be lots of things where people go, we didn't talk about this. Do you know, we've probably got it on here.
We've probably got it, we've probably both got it, but it's just...
There's no point.
I don't think it's just adding minutiae, and I don't think it adds... It kind of conflates the discussion and clouds the issue rather than what we're actually talking about.
I think so too. And I love this conspiracy, by the way. This was... But do you want to know the worst... It's really weird because you were talking about you think we seem a bit deflated. I am a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because I wanted this to be real. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where you go, there's some credibility, and there's little bits of credibility here, little bits of credibility there, where it could still be true. But over the last week, where I've just gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, and every one of those little bits of nagging doubts I had, I've just been eliminated, and I'm now left with. If I'll come to conclusions now on that as well.
Yeah, well, I've got my conclusion lined up here. So we'll just go straight into your. We'll go straight to your finishing.
We'll just go into conclusions.
Right, your finishing statement. Go on then.
Yeah. So, as I say, about a few years ago, I solidified this idea on the line that we went to the moon. Based upon the idea of the vast majority of the evidence, even though it has some nagging doubts, the vast majority of the evidence was pointing towards going to the moon. Scientifically went to the moon, and there's a couple of doubts lingering, this, that, and the other. This week, the more I've gone through it, loads of those nagging doubts have nearly almost gone, which is why I feel a bit deflated, because I love conspiracies. This was the daddy of conspiracies, in my opinion.
It's kind of lost its romanticism.
And it's gone now.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no more conversations for me to be had about this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Other than debunking other people having this conversation for me. So, the reason I'm
your enjoyment of this conspiracy has been ruined.
It's gone.
And therefore, all you got left is to ruin other people's enjoyment of it.
I'm sorry, guys. But I'm just left with... It's like you finding out that the tooth fairy isn't real. It's like, fucking hell, what?
Yeah.
What's that all about? Or, Santa's not real, fuck off. It's like, I knew it, in the back of my mind, I knew he wasn't, but...
You're clinging to hope that
now
Santa still exists.
And so my deflation is, the more we've been talking about this, and maybe I've been a bit off form today, I'm sorry, but this was one that I really, really, really wanted to hang on to. It was the daddy, but there's nothing left for me.
I think that's similar. That deflation is where I've been saying this has gone on a bit. I feel like we're losing the energy, so I'm going to try to bring a bit of stuff like this, just because this has always been a fun debate and discussion to have, and just nothing to debate.
Not anymore.
Right?
Not for me.
And I've got down here for my conclusion is that every aspect of the lunar landing hoax can be debunked quite easily. You can explain it with science and technology, and
Which is upsetting.
which is upsetting. Corroborating evidence from other nations supports lunar landings happened.
Yep.
The conspiracy is a poison well. In that fake videos,
Agreed.
fake documents, hearsay. Nothing new can come to this conspiracy. Anything new comes to it. Comes out, and I've seen stuff that I've not included tonight. Like we were talking before I started filming about the video footage of where the stagehand comes in from the right hand side and moves an object, and it's like that reignited the conspiracy debate. But it's so blatantly fake, and then about a year later it came out that it was fake. And it's like nothing new can, because digital software is available to everyone now, so we can all fake.
There was even that fake video a couple of years ago, or Stanley Kubrick supposedly coming on screen to say that I faked it all and this is how I did it, and then you found out it was an actor.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing new.
So yeah, like there's no evidence can definitively prove the lunar landings happened, because whatever evidence NASA put forward, it's just going to be that's digitally manipulated. You've got proof of this. You've got form for this. We know you do it. Anything you put forward now is just going to be manipulation. The bit that sticks to me, and I think this is why I want to believe we didn't land on the moon, is when you look at the technology that got us there, it doesn't look possible.
It's true.
I can't imagine how we got there on that technology, and that's the bit that gets me. That's the bit that goes, we didn't land there. Because have you seen the fucking tin can that went in?
It literally was a tin can.
Like, did they fill a tin can with explosive liquid and fired them off? And
Whoa.
like with 3 amps, you couldn't even fucking toast a slice of bread, and they got to the moon and back. Fuck off! No, that don't make sense. So that's why I want to believe it didn't happen. And there's a bit of depression from it as well. Like this happened. I think we proved tonight that this happened. We did land on the moon. Right.
Well, between us, we think so.
We
Basically,
both
see.
believe we did.
Yeah.
But we've done nothing from that in 50 years. That's quite depressive.
Done what, sorry?
We landed on the moon, and 50 years later, that's still the furthest we've been. And we've got rovers on Mars, and that's another episode for another day. But we've got the ISS in orbit and Mir in orbit and all this. But we've never gone past the Van Allen belt again. We've never gone. We landed on the moon 50 years ago. Where are the bases? Where are the launch pads from the moon to go colonize? Where's
That
the
might
expansion?
be a different conspiracy theory.
You know what I mean? It's just like we got there 50. We didn't have mobile phones. Look how much mobile phones and PCs have progressed in 50 years. How much technology's progressed in 50 years. And we got there on fuck all technology. We got there in a tin can. And we've not gone back. There's something depressive about, like, this is the greatest human endeavour ever achieved. And then we kind of went, nah, but we're happy where we are now.
I don't think that's true. I think ultimately the response to that is it's all about money. And it's now going to be private enterprise that's going to need to do it. People like Elon Musk is going to need to take us to the next stage where you're going to have private entities, because governments won't go, they can't now, in this day and age, go, let's look at GDP, UK GDP, what's it, 2 trillion?
Yeah.
Trillion or whatever it is. We'd have to say to someone, we've got 2 trillion GDP, we're going to need to use 900 billion next year to get to Mars, or 900 billion to get to the moon. Literally, all you guys with benefits can't have any. All investment into NHS isn't going to happen, but we want to go to Mars instead, and that's the sell.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is where SpaceX works is that like Lockheed Martin and Rocketdyne and stuff like that, built the Saturn V rocket and stuff, the patents and proprietary tech were owned by NASA, whereas the SpaceX program is owned by Tesla and Elon Musk, not Tesla, but SpaceX, you know what I mean? So when you built the Saturn V for NASA, you could only build it for NASA, and that was a government contract, that was it. Elon Musk can build his SpaceX rocket and he rents them to NASA, and he's perfectly free to fly them himself. So he can, yes, he's got a government contract with NASA, like Boeing and Lockheed had and stuff like that with the space missions, but he can then go on and use that technology elsewhere where they want allowed to, and that's where it opens up space travel, and hopefully that's going to bring the next 10, 20 years, we'll have a man on Mars and a colony on Mars and stuff. But it just feels that when you see how much technology has advanced over the last 50 years, and this is the greatest pinnacle of human achievement, and we've done nothing since for 50 years, it's quite deflating.
I can guarantee, had they dug underneath the surface of the moon and
Found
diamond,
oil.
or oil, or lithium.
Looks like the moon needs some freedom.
If they found lithium, our tides would be fucked by now because it's not in mind. But basically, because they found nothing, they found no life, they found just desolation. If
Well,
they
this
found
is the
something
thing now,
exciting-
is it helium-3 found on the moon, which would be to basically turn the moon into a launch pad. So like we fly from Earth to the moon and we build ships on the moon that go out and explore space because the helium-3 is a fueling, so we basically turn the moon into a garage.
Well, the expense is getting off Earth, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the expense.
So if you can build on the moon and you can mine helium-3 on, I think it's helium-3, you can mine it on the moon and turn that into a fuel source, or hydrogen-3, whatever it is, and yeah, you only need 1/6 of Earth's gravity, so you can take off easy and quicker. So it basically turn the moon into a garage.
Just did a big fart and they're off.
But yeah, for me it's just that, and I think that's where the conspiracy comes from, is that if we did it 50 years ago and we're not doing it today, we've not been back since, well, we obviously didn't get there then because we've not done up from it.
Well, there's nothing to find anymore. The appetite's gone. The next big adventure is Mars, but all NASA are telling us there's nothing to find. So then there's no appetite to say. If you're telling the public to Mars, by the way, it's just desert. It's just sand. There's nothing there. We've sent a little lander up. It's found a bit of soil. There's nothing in it. If they come out and went, we found a fucking ocean. There's an atmosphere. There could potentially be something there, but we need to send people there to find out. I can guarantee the appetite of people will be very, very different.
The moon landings weren't there for any reason there to go get something or do something. It was just, we're going to the moon because we can.
I think we picked up in the beginning, it wasn't just that. It was, we're going to the moon because we need to appease our people in the place we're in. We're in the middle of a Cold War. The Russians are beating us to space. There's fear. We're building on a legacy that our president has done. So many things came together in one place.
Do you not think like Boris Johnson came out tomorrow and said, we're going to put a man on Mars in the next 10 years?
It's not revered.
Aye.
It's a fucking joke.
No, but if he came out and said, we're going to put a man on Mars for the next 10 years, no, it's similar to Kennedy's speech, not because we have to or because it's easy, because we want to. It's like we're gonna Britannia ruled the waves and now Britannia's going to rule the stars.
Right, okay.
And when that British Empire kind of colonial, like...
You're going to get a contract.
I know. Like we once ruled the waves, now it's time to rule the stars. Britannia flies again.
Right.
And Britannia will sail the cosmic waves. Do you not think you'd whip up national identity and national patriotism and fury like they did in America, where just like, why we're going to the moon, it's pointless, we're going because we're American and we goddamn can. You know, and it's that kind of thing, like why Britain going to Mars? Because we fucking can.
No, that was the 1960s cell is a very different 21st century cell. 21st century cell now would be, okay, everyone's an economist now. Everyone understands the social issues. Everyone's got access to information everywhere. So, if you say to me, let's go to Mars, I'd be like, brilliant. But at the same time, you'll have just as many people going, hold on, what are we not going to buy in the UK to go to Mars? I mean, what's more important to Mars than the starving people on the street or an accessible, so funded? So many people will find 100 different reasons. The only way we get to Mars, I can guarantee, is if you said, right then, we won't buy Trident for 10 years so we can go to Mars.
I'm up with that, I'll take that tomorrow.
No, but what I'm saying, but you'll have as many people going, well, we're unprotected. The Russians will come and get us. You know, the Americans are telling us Russians are after us. So, you know, you'd have to take away from the military complex or from something to go.
Then we'll go in there. Yeah, you have to redirect resources and funds and stuff.
But then you'll have as many people fighting that, and you wouldn't be able to whip up this storm.
But would you not wish to live in that storm? Would you not live to wish in that?
I'd love it. I'm all for it.
Britain are going to Mars and we're in this together, and
I'm all for exploration, but all I'm saying is we don't live in that world anymore where there's any relevance to explore. People are quite narrow-minded regarding exploration now because we're all thinking it could be robotic and it could be.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we miss as a people. Of our history and our cultures are based on exploration. Like, why did why did we go there and conquer that land? Because we didn't know what we're in that direction, so we went.
Just drove there.
We just drove there. We wanted to get there, and I love going out on. Well, not this year because of fucking COVID, but we used to go out on a Sunday. I mean, the missus go out with my mate. And his missus, and we'd just get in a car and go. They would drive out into Dells and stuff, and they'd be like, "What's down that road? Take right." Don't know, never been down there. Alright then, let's go. And we'd just go down that road just to see what we're down there. We got lost in Dale so many times, we found so many wonderful places that we'd never been able to find again. Because we didn't even know we got there in the first place, so we could recreate our route. But yeah, we just go places, not for any reason, not for any purpose, just because we can. And that with the romanticism and the human endeavour of exploration, we discovered Africa and America and then the New World because we just went what's over that way. And now we need to look at the stars and go, well, I can see Mars there. Can you reach it? No, but I fucking will.
Well, there's many people have those romantic ideas, but many of those people will never get the finance to do it. And that's what it's all down to.
This is what I'm hoping. I'm pinning all my hopes on Elon Musk that he'll give birth to this idea that we're not a one nation planet. Although the way I think it's going to go is he'll in the next 20 years or so he'll establish a colony on Mars and then just go, we don't live by your laws, I own Mars now. And we're going to get the expanse with the belters and the earthers and
then it's really good.
Shit.
Yeah, then we're going to see Arnie go up there and have his.
I mean, what happens when Elon Musk creates a colony on Mars and the first Martian's born, the first human being's born on Mars, and we go, right, these are the rules. It's like, fuck you. I'm a Martian.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to Earth. I've never seen it. I've lived in this planet. Actually, I'm the only one that's got a claim to this planet. I was born here. We're any of you lot. No. Well, actually, we've got this rule on Earth where no one nation can claim land on Mars. Well, that's alright for you lot, because I'm not an Earthling. I'm a Martian. And I'm the only one that exists, so this is fucking mine, dickheads! Get off my land! Get off my land! You're a pair of Dungarees with a bit of Martian straw out of his mouth.
Anyway,
but yeah, I just think I can't debunk or support this theory. It just, we landed on the moon. The moon landings happened. There's so much evidence that we did. I'm sad that we did, because the moment we landed on the moon, we lost something. It cost us too much. As a human race, we stopped reaching for the stars, we stopped expanding, we stopped believing in human endeavour, and we settled for less. We got the International Space, which is a fantastic, wonderful achievement, but it's just above the Earth. Where's the moon bases? Where's the Martian colonies? Where's a man walking on Pluto? You know what I mean? Like, it's 50 years later, and we've not got past that point.
I think people were expecting by now. If you look at Back to the Future, hoverboards and flying cars and...
Yeah, I'm not talking about hoverboards, we've got fucking processors and shit but
the rate of from 1963 to 1969, the acceleration of technology was enormous.
Was ridiculous, yeah. We got so much from it.
But then, it's like, well, then it became, like, Black Project, we're going to stick it into military planes and militarise it. So I'm sure the military could go to Mars tomorrow if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's the thing. It became sort of like locked off. I think it's just that thing of like 50 years. Like, well, why are we going to Mars? There's no reason to go to Mars. What the fucking technology are we going to get out of it? There was no reason to smash two particles together under fucking Switzerland. But we did it, and before we even finished building the machine, we discovered MRI machines. That they came about as an accident from a Super Hadron Collider at Kurt. That was an accident that's in every hospital around the world now. So
MRI?
Yeah.
I'm sure the MRI is 70s.
Yeah, but it came out from Kern.
But Kern was 2002.
No, Kern. No, the superhydrogen planet. Kern's been around a lot longer.
Was it?
Yeah. Then it was MRI was discovered by accident by Kern.
Alright, fair enough.
And then he goes, so like we didn't even know that was a thing, and we discovered. I said, what the fuck are we going to discover by accident? By going to Mars? And he said himself from the moon landings, the technological boom from it was massive.
Right.
So we don't even know what technology we're going to learn like to get to.
Well,
yeah, I just missed the human endeavour. I think if we hadn't landed on the moon, we'd still be shooting for it now. We'd still be trying to land it now. And I think the fact that we did it too early. We landed on it. We got there in technology that shouldn't have fucking got us there. And while I can't believe the technology got us there, I love the pure, stubborn pig-headedness of humans to go, I'm going to keep fucking hitting this till it gets us there.
And if I can retrospectively look back at human history then, or from the 70s, well, basically 70 onwards, I can't think of another part of human history where this would have happened.
It had to be that time and that place.
It wouldn't have happened in the 70s. I just can't think of a time where it had gone, everything came together at the right time and gone, this is where we want to go. It was driven by war, it was driven by fear, it was driven by technologies and boundaries which people weren't afraid to try and overcome. We live in a world now where I'm not even allowed to say certain words without being banned from YouTube, without being banned from Twitter.
And the police knocking on your door and prosecuting you.
You know, I'm not even allowed to have my own thoughts without, you know, it's going to be Minority Report at some point where my own thoughts are against me as well. So, in the 60s, it was unabashed. They were kicking down doors. It was just run to the future.
We just want to say there about the different subcultures coming to light and people allowed to identify as hippies and Black Panthers and
if it had not been
activists and
if it had not been to the moon by now, it would have, the cost to go to the moon now is enormous. And if we'd have not done it by now, I'm not.
Yeah, I can't see another point in time in history we would have done it. I think it was the perfect time and place to do it. Everything were right. The stage was set for us to go to the moon. I just wish. It just seems that we landed on the moon
And they gave up.
That was the end of our
Oh,
human
we've done
endeavour.
it. We've hit our pinnacle and we're done now.
Yeah, we've done that. It's like where we advanced. I want to see.
Well, technology has advanced enormously. Like, and you know, the fact that the whole
but the exploration hasn't. The human endeavour's died.
But human exploration stopped, but technological exploration hasn't. We're sending probes out. It's gone out of our galaxy for the first time.
Yeah, Voyager's gone out of our galaxy, but that was long. Actually, after the moon landings, right? That was 81.
Yeah.
Voyager
No, they only
yeah.
got it. Only
No, it's only just reached. But I say 81 when it was launched.
yeah, but it's only stopped being pulled by the gravity of the sun, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just both of them. I think Voyager 2's left
That's
as well now.
as well now.
Yeah.
So, you know, technology is going out there doing it.
Yeah,
Human
we're not-
us
we're
stepping
not,
somewhere.
yeah.
We're doing it on behalf of tech.
And we're doing it remotely now, just like fucking. Oh, we're at work. We're working from home and we've got Zoom calls, so it's just like you're there. No, it's fucking not.
It's exactly that.
I don't want to sit and watch a TV and use a joystick to move a little car about. I want to walk on Mars. Elon, let him walk on! Get me to Mars, Elon! Get me there!
I fucking leave him there as well. He's done me.
Oh, could you not just slip loose your earthly bonds? Would you not love to just, even if it was just into orbit, not this shitty Virgin fucking thing that dips in, but like go to the International Space Station for a week or a couple of days.
I'm scared of roller coasters though, so it'd be a fucking interesting ride.
Just be like I think I've said it before, one where like I love flying just because it's unnatural and we're not supposed to fly and it's man dominating nature going, yeah, I can't fly. Fuck you, watch me. Yes, I can.
Just like this touch paper.
You know, it's like you live on this planet. Fucking really? Watch. I'm leaving it. It is that stubborn. Yeah. God, I want to go into space.
Can you fucking finish up now?
So, the moon landings were hoaxed. Does that believe?
No, I don't.
I really want to believe, because this was the fucking granddaddy of them all. This was the pinnacle of them all, and I was holding on just because I just wanted to, but no, they weren't. I think there's a couple. There's definitely, in my opinion, some footage being tampered with, but
the footage being lost and
there's a couple of grey areas for which I'm not very comfortable with, which hangs me onto as to why would you do that sort of shit. But the actual setting foot on Moon, yeah, that just I believe. I don't believe, mate. I'm gutted to say, I really wanted this to be the one that hung up.
I'm starting to regret going for that beer when you rang me that day and went, I've got an idea for a YouTube challenge, you want to go for a pint? Because all these conspiracy theories that I've grown up with and loved,
Just killing them.
It's like you. It's like you've just gone. Here's your childhood. Here's a club. Stave it in. Kill your own childhood.
They're all coming to pass. I mean, outside of the Simpsons and fucking Paul McCartney shit.
Yeah.
Which is silly, but like proper conspiracies which were believable. It's like no,
they're not. So yeah, that does not believe that the moon landings were hoaxed.
I'm fucking upset by this.
I'm genuinely gutted.
Why couldn't you have found something which I didn't find?
This was your idea. You chose this theory.
Yeah, but I was hoping that you'd go fucking balls deep in something rabbit hole.
I did go balls deep. Why do you think I had a Wikipedia page as my research? Because everything else with balls deep was batshit fucking crazy.
Show me some batshit crazy stuff that brings me back to this conspiracy being true.
None of it does.
Anyway, thank you for watching this fucking long.
Thank you for watching for this long. We'll be back next week. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on whether the moon landings were hoaxed. As always, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. Tell 2 friends about us. Go tell 2 people we exist and let them watch us as well.
And if we're not up here next week, call somebody.
We might have hung ourselves out of depression. But for tonight, he's been Craig.
Yeah.
I've been Badger. Until next time, see you.
Bollocks.